Darn it! I feel that all my values are completely shattered today. What's wrong with this world? Is this the real world? Lock our windows and doors. I'm a little terrified now. The bullet chat was suddenly greatly reduced, but anger was accumulating. No one thought that those plutocrats high up in the air were so dirty and scary. Right then, the live studio was cut off and the live studio was banned by WeTwit officially. The hundreds of millions of audience members watching the live stream now, were instantly lost. Are they crazy? Almost at the same time, the sounds of slamming bangles could be heard all over Underground City. The audience who couldn't return to the live studio, flooded into all the trending lists. They began to release their anger on WeTwit crazily. Stupid WeTwit! Did you ban the live studio because your master's interests were harmed? A great CEO in front of people, but a murderer behind the scene. I'll offload WeTwit today. Mag noticed that the live studio was banned. He wasn't surprised. He was even shocked that this live studio could have existed for so long. After all, Horace's earlier comments had dragged the Dixon family into hot waters with him. The banning of the live studio didn't affect his execution's tempo, but he had changed his mind and decided to keep Horace alive. Hence, he began to dig out the Dixon family's dirt from Horace, including how they laundered their money, the murder case that Fergus was involved in and their other criminal activities. The live stream was cut, but the video's recording continued on. 363 strikes, not one strike more, not one strike less. However, Mag kept Horace alive. Other than his life, his limbs and the root of his crimes had left him. The 5 minutes countdown was up and Mag fed Horace enough healing pills to make sure he would last till the Justice Investigation Bureau arrived. Then, he turned into a shadow and disappeared from the valley. On the cliff across from them, the three investigators blinked as they watched the man in black disappear from the valley in a daze. Why did he suddenly disappear? One of the junior investigators jumped out and used the telescope to scan around the valley. The life detector showed that there was only a weak sign of life left in the valley. He has left. It was exactly 363 strikes, but that fellow isn't dead yet. Let's go over there right now. Quark leaped up immediately, jumped into the flying car parked at the side and dashed down to the valley. He didn't know why the other party suddenly changed his mind and didn't kill Horace directly, but he was sure that the chief was going to have a headache later. It would be much more troublesome than receiving a dead body. After entering into the almost extraordinary state, Mag's speed had increased greatly. Together with the flying sword technique which he had recently mastered, his instantaneous explosive speed was comparable to Xi's battleship. About 3 minutes later, Mag appeared in a dense forest 500 kilometers away. Mag put away his sword and was about to take out his flying car for his journey back. A black battleship suddenly appeared in the sky above the dense forest. Mag grasped his sword. Hop on. The door underneath the battleship opened and Xi's voice rang in his ear. What are you doing here? Mag was slightly taken aback, but he still hopped onto the battleship right away. The door closed and the battleship started up silently. It turned on the invisible mode and disappeared at the horizon. Mag entered the control room and smilingly asked Xi, who was sitting in the pilot's seat, a new battleship. This mission is highly secretive. It's not convenient to use my battleship. Xi activated the autopilot and got up from her seat as she looked at Mag with a complicated gaze. Mag removed his mask and smilingly said, I know I am handsome, but you don't have to stare at me like that. I have a wife and children after all. The plutocrats aren't easy to mess with. You can't fight with them, Xi said in a low voice. I always do as I please. As for how difficult they are to deal with, I don't have to think about that. I just need to stir up the matter. Mag clicked on the bangle and asked at the same time, how do I release the video all over the internet? WeTwit's not righteous, but I don't think all the platforms are going to shut it down, right? Did you kill him? No, I kept him alive, but he's not going to last for long. However, it will be interesting to see who is going to kill him. There was a hint of cunningness in Mag's smile. Xi was quiet. She soon understood Mag's meaning as she said, "Regarding this matter, I have to ask my superiors." "Then hurry up, otherwise he will be dead." 3 minutes later, Mag released the entire judging process on the internet. As he expected, the original clip was banned on the whole internet within 3 minutes. Xi looked at all the clips that became grey and said to Mag, "You have underestimated the plutocrats' influence. It's you who have underestimated the people's power in spreading the resources." Mag left the control room with a smile and headed for the lounge. The shutting down of the live stream of the judging had triggered the people's fury. Meanwhile, 10 odd minutes later, a complete video clip of Horus's judgment was released all over the internet and appeared on all the mainstream video sharing websites. All the platforms and websites reacted rapidly and removed the clip. However, the sealing of the public channels could only stop the spreading of this video clip. Online storage, personal links, and even individual storing devices. The netizens did whatever they could to spread this clip rapidly like a virus. Even the scalpers were thinking about selling it. Mag knew very well from the beginning that it would be the video clip that would be able to spread widely. People watching the clip live would be the minority. The later half of the clip even made the audience feel a chill up their back and their limbs turn cold. The plutocrats were lording over the ordinary folks. Their behavior of doing whatever they pleased above the law was dissected for all to see. And at the end of the clip, the adjudicator didn't kill Horus. He let him live after cutting away his limbs. The witness was still alive, then the rest would be the Justice Investigation Bureau's issue. Fergus rape and murder case, the Dixon family's money laundering case and some dirty matters within the circle were all cases that the Bureau should investigate. Mag closed the lounge door and laid on the bed. Looking at the little words system in the process of learning drifting across his mind, Mag loudly asked, "System, are you done learning yet?" The system kept quiet and the little words kept drifting across. "You're really useless. I have already linked you up with the internet and yet you failed to finish learning after so long." Mag pursed his lips and was about to exit. To better understand this world, the first thing that Mag did after he entered Underground City was to link the system up with the Underground City's internet, so that it could learn the Underground City's technology by stealing. The technology level that the system had was lower than Underground City's, because it was meant for the Norland continent and it was more than adequate for it. However, the system itself had limitless potential. After all, it was made by God. Using the system's explanation, it was just like an online storage space that had the capacity of 1000T, and only contained 1 G of stuff. It could accommodate more things to elevate its power. The system's voice suddenly rang out. "This underground city has so many methods to make films that it's astonishing. Have you mastered it? It's not very easy to learn. On a serious note, are there any leads for the information I got you to find about the origins of the sacred steel?" Mag asked seriously. Mag's main goal of coming to the underground city this time was the sacred steel that carried the records for the secret of gods. Although he could empathize with the oppressed citizens of the underground city, he was not a saint, so he would not play the hero figure immediately after entering underground city. With the system handling it, there's nothing to fear. I've already read through many top secret documents. I can say for sure that the steel indeed fell from the skies. And its timeline also matches with the information you saw previously. In that case, Ferdinand is rather sincere. Mag nodded. Then, he asked, "Where is the sacred steel? How's the security around it?" "The steel is located at the city center of Tucker City. It is covered by a spell formation that has been concealed. There is also an extraordinaire guarding the steel all year around. There are also 4 almost extraordinaires taking turns to guard it. It is the place with the highest security in Underground City. Of course, this does not include the highest tier battleships always on standby." Mag frowned. That dispelled his intentions to sneak over alone to take a peek at the sacred steel. An extraordinaire and 4 almost extraordinaires guarding showed how important the steel was to the underground city. However, that was not difficult to understand. The sacred steel hid the secret of gods, which even opened the underground city's technology. It would be strange if they did not place importance on it. If I can't see it for myself, do you have any images or videos of the sacred steel? Mag asked. He also tried to find images of the sacred steel online but could not find any relevant information. The sacred steel is something that cannot be recorded, so it does not exist in any image or recording. Moreover, according to those who had seen the sacred steel, everyone saw it differently and everyone learned different things from it as well, the system replied. It is very miraculous and divine. It seems like I have to complete Ferdinand's mission properly, Mag said. What the system said was rather similar to a rumor he had seen before. Pashat boarded the battleship. His eyelids were twitching madly when he watched the video his subordinate sent him. When they rushed to the event location, that mysterious the adjudicator was already gone and only Horus, cut up like pork, was left behind. Even Pashat, who had worked in the Justice Investigation Bureau for 500 years, had almost never seen a corpse in such a bad condition. Oh, no. Horus did not die. That fellow stabbed Horus 363 times but did not kill him. Instead, before leaving, he stuffed a healing pill into Horus's mouth and that successfully kept him alive until they arrived at the scene. Horus's injuries might be terrifying but none of the stabs were fatal. The healing magic casters managed to save him on the way back and his life was no longer in danger. It seemed they had arrived in time. However, right now, Pashat only wanted to give himself a tight slap. Horus did not die and that meant that there was more for him to worry about. Should he investigate the Fergus murder case? The witness was still alive and there were already local officials investigating the evidence. Should he investigate the Dixon family's money laundering case? Horus made a last-minute accusation but it was very clear and detailed, down to the point of how much was laundered for each movie. If Horus was dead, there would be no evidence and things would be simpler. But Horus was alive and that mysterious person had uploaded the entire trial online, so the whole world knows that Horus wasn't dead. If Horus was to die now, so would he. Watch Horus well. Make sure we bring him back alive. Pashat instructed as he closed the video off. The matter might be a headache but this was the Dixon family's trouble. He did not have to take it up. He just had to do what he needed to. Wow, this time, it's interesting. That darn B*TCHC if I don't kill you this time. Akali was lying on the couch. She closed the notification on her bangle. After that, she looked up at her secretary standing at the side and gave an order. Release all the dirty secrets that we got our hands on previously. I want to see this B*TCH be unable to ever make a comeback. Young mistress, if the chief knows that we released it now, will he? The secretary stuttered. Fool, don't let the chief know. Akali rolled her eyes. She sat up and her gaze turned colder. This fellow is just a S*X demon through and through. You were almost raped by him too back then. If you let him off now, who knows how many other young ladies will have to fall victim to him. The secretary seemed to have recalled the past and she furrowed her eyebrows together angrily. She nodded and said, I will do so right now. With Fergus gone, there's only 2 left. Brother Hades is really my lucky star. Akali smiled. She opened her WeTwit chatting page and saw that the message she sent to Hades was still unread. She knitted her charismatic eyebrows together slightly. This is the first man who did not even read my message. Mag completed his conversation with the system and the system continued learning while he opened WeTwit. On the trending list were Charcoal Roasted Goat Ribs Tutorial, Hades Advance, and Top Chef Competition Top 4. Meanwhile, content about Horus's trial and Fergus murder case was empty. That showed what money could do. Of course, one cannot block the citizens' emotions. Although the topics had been removed from WeTwit's trending list and keywords had been blocked, if one went into any of the trending list topics, one would find the comment section filled with discussion on those topics. Of course, the line that was seen most often was "Justice might be late, but never absent." The post Mag uploaded in the morning had already more than 100 million likes and more than 10 million comments. Based on the statistics, Mag almost thought he had hired an internet water army. Mag thought for a while but did not post anything. He should just leave things as they were. After that, Mag opened the chat that was drowned by all the other red dots. There were probably millions of people who messaged him. Most of the messages were positive. Reversal. Mag stroked his chin. He could not get used to such high compliments. After that, he discovered a message that was pinned. The dazzling account was unusual and it was reeking with the aura of a wealthy woman. Mag clicked open the message. "Brother Hades, let's have a meal tonight. I'll be waiting for you at the Twin Towers." Mag thought for a while and replied, "Sorry, not free." It was always her who rejected others. She didn't expect to be rejected today. "It's just simply eating a meal. I have waited the entire day for your reply." Akali sent another message. Looking at the record, it has only been an hour and 8 minutes. Akali was furious. There were actually such straightforward men in this world. It was his fault that he didn't reply to her messages, and yet he dared to look for trouble with her. "Humph, if it wasn't for the fact that you are good looking, I wouldn't be so tolerant." Akali turned off her bangle and took a few deep breaths. She clicked on WeTwit and sent a message. "Babe, rest well. You have worked hard at the competition." Mwah. Turning off the bangle, Akali buried her face into the sofa. "Ah! What have I sent? It's so gross." Mag looked at his bangle with a puzzled expression. "Do all the rich women chit-chat like that? It's so gross." After turning off the bangle, Mag didn't continue to reply to the messages. His top priority now was to get into the McCarthy family through Nancy. At this time, he naturally couldn't get too close with the rich lady from the Dixon family. They were all rich ladies, so he had to pick between them. But neglecting that Twin Towers would be a pity. Is it really spreading everywhere? XI looked at the comments all over WeTwit and the statistical results that she had received. That video clip that was banned everywhere, was spreading all over the internet with a terrifying speed. Almost everyone had seen it. How did he know that this clip would spread so widely? XI's gaze couldn't help looking over to the lounge. As a native of Underground City, she was taught a hard lesson by Mag. Mag's current actions weren't in the plans and to a great extent, they were against the Underground City's laws. However, XI envied that Mag could do as he wished inwardly. When she received those intels in the morning, she was also furious. However, she knew the Underground City which was under the influence of the plutocrats, and knew that what they had on hand was just the tip of the iceberg. Mag the foreigner, had violently ripped apart the relationships that people from the different social statuses maintained and brought the conflict up to the surface. The crowd's fury had been ignited. This time, the Dixon family had to give them an answer to appease the people. The plutocrats obviously didn't like to see that happen, but XI knew someone definitely liked to see that. That was why she went to the valley to pick up Mag. This stratified world seemed to have loosened a little with Mag's arrival. XI was even a little expectant about the kind of storm that this legendary being from the Norland continent would cause in Underground City. Ding! XI's bangle made a beep. She looked down with a weird expression before sending a message to Mag. "Nancy wants to see me? Are all the beautiful rich young ladies in Underground City so impatient?" Mag mumbled as he walked out of the lounge and said to XI, "Do you have detailed information about Nancy's likes and dislikes?" Mag sneaked back to the contestants' dormitory in the Mocha building. This was completely unchallenging for him. Then, he changed into casual wear and went to the restaurant at the top of the Mocha building to have lunch with Nancy under the staff member's lead. Nancy had invited Mag to lunch through XI. I didn't expect that I would be facing the casting couch as soon as I got into the entertainment industry. Mag couldn't help dissing inwardly, but he wasn't resistant to it. One, he took part in the Top Chef competition to get into the McCarthy family. The result would be the same if he could get into the McCarthy family through Nancy. The restaurant at the top was opulent. The staff member led Mag to a private room and stood there. He opened the door and smilingly said to Mag, "This way please, Mr. Hades." "Thank you." Mag nodded slightly and stepped into the private room. The door was gradually closed behind him. The decor in the private room was simple yet luxurious. Crystals and gems were used in the decorations. A beautiful maiden was sitting quietly in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows. "Miss Nancy." Mag stopped to greet Nancy. "Mr. Hades, please have a seat." Nancy gestured with her hand with a gentle smile. Mag sat across from Nancy and said to her directly, "I wonder why Miss Nancy called me here." The information provided by XI had indicated that Nancy preferred to interact with straightforward people. "I invited Mr. Hades here to celebrate your advancement into the top 4, and I'm curious about you, so I want to find out more about you personally." Nancy was equally straightforward, but she also added on and said, "I am the person in charge of this Top Chef competition. Knowing about every contestant in the top 4 is part of my job." "Stop arguing." Mag smilingly said, "Thank you. Feel free to ask me whatever you want to know. You don't have to be so restrained. I just want to know more about you." XI's hands swept across the table gently and the menu appeared on the table. "I don't think you have had lunch yet. Place your order first." 1. The food at this restaurant must be better than the food provided for the contestants. Mag naturally wouldn't be courteous with her. He flipped through the menu and ordered enough food for 2. He went out for work and he indeed hadn't had lunch yet. After ordering their food and while waiting for their food to be served, Nancy smilingly said to Mag, "You are the first contestant who has gotten famous all over the internet on the day of your debut. I didn't expect a wee tweet that I accidentally shared would turn out like this." There was a hint of helplessness in Mag's smile. "I admire your righteousness." Nancy looked at Mag with unconcealed admiration. "It's rare to see such a characteristic now. I think everyone has a seed of righteousness in their hearts. Only the way they express it is different." Mag said honestly, "I am not any different from them." Humility is also an equally outstanding characteristic. "Whatever you say is right." Mag simply smiled. He couldn't help but blush. Nancy suddenly stopped smiling and seriously said, "Horace isn't dead, but the matters that he exposed have humiliated the Dixon family. They might take revenge on you, just like the assassination from this morning. Everyone dies someday. Our deaths can be important or frivolous. If I can choose, I hope mine could be the former," Mag said calmly. Nancy looked into Mag's bright eyes. They looked like a spring at the top of a snowy mountain. They were clean and clear. She couldn't help but be dazed and touched by them. What a statement! Nancy marveled inwardly. She only felt that this man's image had become even greater in her heart. There were extremely few people who could be as calm as him in front of the plutocrats. "Mr. Hades, I would like to invite you, on behalf of the McCarthy family, to be the special chef of the McCarthy Manor. The McCarthy family will ensure your safety." Nancy stood up and solemnly extended her hand to Mag. Nancy looked at Mag, who had a grave expression. Indeed, he wasn't someone who would accept a handout. Just as she was about to retract her hand and explain her actions, a warm big hand grasped hers. Mag stood up to hold Nancy's hand as he smilingly said, "Miss Nancy, thank you for your gracious help. I would like to be the McCarthy Manor's special chef. This is my honor." The chance to be a freeloader would disappear in the blink of an eye. He naturally had to grab on it hard. In order to complete his mission, Mag didn't mind that behavior at all. What did Hades, being a freeloader, have to do with Shen Mag? Mag's smile was warm and clean. Nancy was slightly dazed. After regaining her wits, she felt her hand that was being held by Hades, getting a little warm. She blushed and quickly retracted her hand. Hades accepted her suggestion. This was very normal. All the underground city's chefs found it hard to reject this invitation. According to the rules, she would choose the champion of the top chef competition and invite him or her to join the McCarthy Manor as a special chef. The McCarthy family would provide a generous salary and a strong protection. Meanwhile, Mag only took part in one competition and she had already extended the olive branch to him. The important reason was those grilled goat ribs that she couldn't get enough of, and another reason was Akali had just called her and specifically asked for Hades. She would never give Akali the person she wanted. Hence, in the times of chaos now, it was without any doubt that she was giving Hades a lifeline by extending the olive branch to him. It's also our honor to hire an excellent chef like Mr. Hades. Nancy sat down again and took a small sip of the lemon water, trying to calm her erratic heartbeat down. Mag also sat down and asked Nancy, "Miss Nancy, should I still take part in the upcoming competitions then?" "Yes. You have to take part in the upcoming competitions, and I hope that you can do your best to showcase your culinary skills." Nancy nodded slightly as she looked at Mag with anticipation. "I think the audience and I would very much like to see what kind of surprises you are going to bring us." "I'll do my very best." Mag nodded with a smile. Yes, he was now a bona fide attraction. His continuation in the competition would ensure the Top Chef competition maintained its popularity. After all, this was still a business. Then, Mag chit-chatted with Nancy for a while. Because he read the history of Underground City, watched over 10,000 different kinds of movies and targeted Nancy's likes, Mag easily made her laugh. An hour later, the happy lunch ended and Mag took the initiative to say goodbye. "Mr. Hades is indeed a very interesting person." Nancy looked at the gradually closing door with a lingering smile. She had never had such a happy chat with a man before. His knowledge was as vast as the ocean and his understanding was deep. Moreover, his stance on certain subjects were exactly the same as hers. At first, she only thought that she had recruited a righteous chef. But now, she felt that she had gained a good friend. Compared to those rich kids who only knew how to get themselves drunk in bars and race their flying cars, Hades gave her a completely different feeling. "I'm indeed a professional at charming girls." Mag looked at the favorability that the system gave to him. It was 62 when he entered and it became 82 when he left. 62 was slight favorability for normal people. Given Nancy's status, that favorability level was normal. However, 82 was different. It had reached the level of friends who had an enjoyable conversation. Mag didn't intend to pursue Nancy's favorability of him when he charmed her. He was only preparing for his entrance into the McCarthy family later. He didn't know the mission's level of difficulty, so it was definitely better to make advanced preparations. He rarely came to Underground City, so he naturally couldn't stay cooped up in the contestants' dormitory. Mag got an access card from XI and left the Mocha building for a joyride in his flying car. Mag, who was sitting in the flying car's driver's seat, turned to ask XI with a smile, who was sitting in the passenger seat, "This mission is so simple. Are you guys sure that you are letting me go look at the sacred steel? Do you think you can become a god just after you look at the steel?" XI asked instead. "Hey!" Mag was stunned. He seemed to believe in that. Look at the steel, understand the rules and break through to become a god. It all seemed so reasonable. Over 10,000 people receive the rights to read the sacred steel annually. The plutocrats' core members have a chance to read the sacred steel annually since they are 10 years old. Those soldiers, who are outstanding in martial arts, or have made a contribution, will get one chance to read the sacred steel. All the powerhouses who reached the 10th tier will get a chance to read the steel, XI said calmly. "Mag, how many times have you read the sacred steel?" Mag asked with a grave feeling. 3 times, Xi calmly replied. Mag, so, this reward is very common. Mag felt cheated. Everyone reads the sacred steel differently. Some people entered the extraordinaire's level just looking at it once, while others failed to see anything even after going there for hundreds or thousands of times. You can think that this is a pointless reward, but you can also take it as a precious chance to become a god. Mag nodded, showing his agreement to Xi's words. Looking at it, this sacred steel was more like a blind box. No one knew what they were going to get before they opened it. However, becoming a god was a small probability event after all. Even in Underground City, there hadn't been any new extraordinaires in the last 500 years, despite having the sacred steel. Where are you going? Xi asked. The Twin Towers. Mag entered a destination into the autopilot. Are you going to meet Akali? Xi had a weird expression. But you have just seduced Nancy. No, I just want to see what I have just rejected. Mag shook his head and seriously said, I didn't seduce Miss Nancy. It was just a very proper and friendly interaction. Light beams formed roots in the air as the flying car zoomed across smoothly. Tucker City was a megacity that had 1,500,000,000 people living in it. Buildings that were thousands of meters tall could be seen everywhere, and there were rows upon rows of castles in the sky. And there was also a world that no one could see, thousands of meters under the ground. This was a three-dimensional city. Different people lived in different zones. And in the center of the city, was a patch of office buildings that looked very technological. The most dazzling buildings among them were the twin towers that were built next to each other like two golden pillars. I was just lamenting. Mag looked at the top of one of the towers. It was said that the woman who owned the most expensive house in the underground city was living at that tip of the pyramid. From our information, Akali seems to be an idol chaser. There are hundreds of celebrities that she has been a fan of, but none of them lasted for more than 3 days. Xi dispelled any possible thoughts Mag might have. What a player! Mag was stunned. Xi brought Mag around Tucker City and Mag was able to learn many things. After passing through a busy commercial street, Mag, with an exquisite little cake in his hand, said while eating, I think I want to open a restaurant here. I might become a wealthy man in about a year. Xi nodded. She did not think Mag was boasting. Say, will the underground city and Norland continent go to war one day? Mag turned to her suddenly and asked. Xi thought seriously for a while before nodding. That is absolutely possible. During one of our regular exercises in the army, we have an exercise just for that. You're really frank, Mag commented, but his mood went down a little too. It was a retained project. It was not suggested by the Marshal. Moreover, even you are unable to guarantee that the Norland continent would not start having second thoughts about the underground city, Xi said. Yes, it is human nature to be greedy. Mag nodded. It was just like how he could not help but want the sacred steel when he heard about it. On the way back, Mag started surfing WeTwit. Horace's incident caused many codes to emerge to prevent being censored. The incident was still a hot discussion topic on WeTwit. WeTwit's disgusting handling of this method had also infuriated many netizens. Therefore, there was a petition in Underground City to cancel WeTwit and harsh punishments for unacceptable behavior, which was signed by millions of people. According to the standard procedure, these two petitions had entered the investigative phase, and that was starting to mean trouble for WeTwit. Other than that, there were people who did a tutorial summary of the techniques Mag used for making the charcoal grilled mutton ribs during the competition. The video tutorial had garnered more than 30 million views. Some tried making the charcoal grilled mutton ribs on their own at home, and this even became a trend. After a few influential food bloggers and celebrities jumped on the bandwagon, this also became an activity everyone was doing. Because of that, the sales of grills in Underground City started rising. However, in a well-developed place like the Underground City, it was not easy to find a grill that could burn charcoal, and it was even more difficult to find good fruit tree charcoal. Mag smiled after watching some of the fails and the awkward smiles on the posters' faces. These people might not have cooked before, but failure might be a good start because they had at least tried. Back in the dormitory, Mag was about to ask the system for a detailed report of Congressman Tam when his believers increased to 121,0354 people and the number was increasing rapidly. Ding! Congratulations, 1 million believers achieved. The system's voice sounded and many fireworks played in Mag's mind. Can you not be so tacky? Mag rolled his eyes. He could not stand those bright and tacky fireworks that were going off in his mind. Aren't I celebrating according to the traditions on Earth? The system said. Where's the reward? The special reward you mentioned. Mag could not be bothered to engage in the nonsense conversation anymore. Ding! Congratulations on achieving the reward, Psyche Controlling Chant. Please check your reward. Mag looked at the golden scroll in his mind and frowned. Why is this so fantastical all of a sudden? What is a Psyche Controlling Chant? Is it celestial magic or a martial art of some sort? Please do not diss the chant. The Psyche Controlling Chant is a training method to control your mental powers. You do not become a god and there are no tiers for this. You can think of it to a certain degree as a type of magic, the system explained. Magic? I'm a warrior, Mag muttered to himself. However, he still opened the golden scroll. A flood of information suddenly surged over and filled his brain. This was a very familiar feeling to him. Therefore, Mag quickly got used to it and started studying this very important chant. The Psyche Controlling Chant, as the name implies, is a technique that can control one's psyche. Although the system explained it as magic, it was actually more of a way that controlled the psyche's effect on the outside world. It was different from how there are elements in magic. Of course, he was not very sure how it would differ from a spiritual magic caster. After his surpassing 1 million believers, Mag could feel his spiritual power become stronger and better. This way surpassed the spiritual power he should have in this world. The Psyche Controlling Chant then gave him a way to control this spiritual power. Psychokinesis was one of the techniques in the Psyche Controlling Chant. It was also a very useful technique. Mag turned to look at the teacup on the coffee table at the side. Bam! The teacup shattered. Mag sat up and breathed calmly. He exercised his spiritual powers according to the chant and looked at another teacup. The teacup started levitating shakily off the coffee table and after that smashed against the wall at the side uncontrollably, shattering into pieces. What? That's so difficult. Mag watched as the robot vacuum cleaner emerged from underneath his bed to clear up the shattered pieces of the teacups. He took a piece of paper from the side and folded it into the shape of a sword. After that, he stared at the sword and started practicing his sword skills. Mag had tried controlling his spiritual powers before and flying on his sword was one of his best tricks. However, those were just small tricks and spiritual power was only a small part of it. He still had to use his physical capabilities to fly with the sword. The Psyche Controlling Chant was a method to use spiritual power. Spiritual power might be obscure, but once you master how to use it, you would realize that the energy gathered from this obscure power is actually a very large force. The paper sword flew around the room unsteadily. It would sometimes knock onto the walls and sometimes crash onto the floor. However, it quickly caught hold of a flight path and direction. The next morning, Mag, who had been sitting cross-legged on his bed, opened his eyes. A paper sword was suspended right in front of him. Mag turned off his bangle, feeling very satisfied with this result. However, Mag wasn't very comfortable with the restaurant's staff members' attention on him. Moreover, this attention had far exceeded the one given to the top 4 contestants. Some maidens were even looking at him with glowing eyes. "May I share a table with you?" A gentle voice interrupted Mag's train of thoughts. Mag looked up and saw that it was Angelina who was carrying a tray. He looked around the restaurant. The contestants' restaurant was separated from the Mocha Group's employees' cafeteria. As the competition progressed, there were only 4 of them in the restaurant now. Other than Iman, who was having his meal next to the window alone, and Padas, who was in the 4th position, there were still dozens of tables which she could eat on. I'm not used to eating alone. Angelina seemed to have sensed Mag's befuddlement and showed a gentle smile. What the heck about not being used to eating alone? What about sleeping alone? Mag nodded slightly and said, up to you. 1. I'm Angelina. Angelina put down her tray and sat across from Mag and smilingly said, pleasure to make your acquaintance. Mag only nodded coldly before he continued to eat his breakfast. His impression of Angelina was limited. He had read about her in the contestants' info before. Her persona in the show was an aloof goddess. An aloof goddess would have many fans. That was understandable. However, he was the pretty boy who was kept by a rich woman right now. He couldn't flirt as he wished, especially in public. He still had that kept pretty boy's understanding. 2. Furthermore, he had no idea what he had to do for his mission later on. He could leave any time, but any interactions with others could push them into the abyss. Mag's cold response didn't affect Angelina's enthusiasm at all. She wasn't in a hurry to eat. She leaned forward and stared at Mag with the same gleam in her eyes as the other 2 lady servers. She said excitedly in a low voice, did you see the video clip yesterday? Justice has indeed prevailed. Mag stopped moving his hands and looked at Angelina, who was excited and full of admiration. He thought, what kind of aloof goddess was she? Even the middle-aged lady canteen server, who gave him an extra chicken drumstick, was more demure than her. I don't know what you are talking about. Mag's answer was still cold. At the same time, he was about to pick up his tray and leave. This breakfast was horrible. Angelina didn't seem to mind Mag's deliberate aloofness as she suddenly said in realization, seems like you didn't see yesterday's clip? That monster Horus whom you posted on WeTwit, was judged by someone called the Adjudicator alive yesterday. He was stabbed 363 times, 1 strike for each victim. It's you who brought everyone's attention to this matter. You played a great part in this justice that was served late. You're indeed a righteous person. Mag looked at the maiden who was agitated and had a gleam in her eyes. Had he met a fan in real life? When did he become an idol? Favorability from Angelina, 92. Mag was simply looking at Angelina's favorability out of curiosity, yet he was shocked. This was a favorability that had far exceeded that between a couple or a spouse. The favorability's peak between a couple was usually during the love bubble. Even farting would be deemed as an adorable action. However, the favorability would rarely exceed 95. And after the love bubble was over, life would return to normal and they would discover some faults with each other. They would realize that the other party was different from the perfect partner in their imagination. The favorability would decrease then. After marriage, even breathing was wrong. They only competed on the same stage yesterday. They were strangers who didn't have any interaction before that, so her sudden intense favorability had caught him unawares. I simply did what I should do. Mag stood up with the tray. I'm done eating. Please take your time. Such favorability made Mag a little scared. Was this the legendary groupie? When he was returning the tray, Mag flicked a glance at the lady servers, who had been peeking at him. Their respective favorability ratings were 84 and 86. They were far less scary than Angelina's favorability. Weird. Mag left the restaurant with befuddlement. It seemed that Angelina was indeed a little fanatical. He'd better be careful around her. Angelina stared at Mag's back with a blush as she bit her lower lip and said, Mr. Hades is indeed a gentle and polite person. Mag's extraordinary hearing caught that sentence clearly as he walked out of the restaurant. Mag. An exceedingly high favorability did indeed beautify every single behavior. Why did these two suddenly get so close? Perhaps, it's the programming division's new script? Didn't she refuse to form a couple with me previously? She even said she didn't want to date in the show, even when it was fake. Iman bit into his pancake with a perplexed expression. Mag had already realized that yesterday's event had greatly increased his favorability from the ordinary folks, including the males. People couldn't find the adjudicator, so as the trigger, he naturally took over the popularity. I took over my own popularity. There's no problem with that at all. After breakfast, Mag went to the contestants' lounge to wait for the makeup to be done and to do some prep before the competition. Although Mag was a straight guy and was annoyed when things were applied to his face, this was a program after all. Hence, he should do his part and not make things difficult for the staff members. Your skin is so good. You just need a little touch-up for the cameras. The maiden who did Mag's makeup was blushing the whole time. She even praised him for his great skin. Thank you, Mag smilingly replied and watched her favorability increase from 80 to 88, which was very ridiculous. After doing the makeup artist put away her tools and gingerly asked, "May I take a picture with you?" "Sure." Mag nodded. The makeup artist immediately lifted up her bangle and set it to the selfie mode. She got closer to Mag carefully and quickly finished taking the selfie before saying to Mag with a blush, "Thank you, sir. I appreciate your help." Mag nodded slightly. His bangle vibrated and Mag glanced at it. It was a message from the programming division. It was about today's competition's rules. "Please go ahead, sir." The makeup artist left with her stuff happily. Mag clicked on the message and he revealed a shocked expression. Chapter 2457 I am not into this couple. Then they would use the ingredients that they bought to cook. Meanwhile, the programming division would be following their every move and live streaming them. The time used to buy the ingredients would be taken into the total time frame, but it would still be 2 hours. This was a very interesting improvement. Mag guessed that this was to test the contestants' ability to choose the ingredients. Of course, if the ingredients prepared by the programming division were all the best, then he could forget about that statement. Moreover, this might be the Mocha Group trying to promote its own mall. After all, it was such an influential program. The publicity of live streaming the top 4 contestants buying their ingredients would be hard to imagine for the usual advertisers. Why did they change the rules suddenly? I have to go buy my own ingredients. In the next dressing room, Iman was shocked after he saw the message. He began to look nervous. Even though he had learned to cook for years, he had always stayed in the Tucker restaurant's kitchen. They had professional suppliers and the situation where the chefs had to go buy their own ingredients had never occurred. Now that the programming division had suddenly added this rule at the last minute, it was, undoubtedly, adding on to his stress. His manager consoled him. "Don't be nervous. I have already found out that this is a tactic for the Mocha Group to attract traffic to its own mall. The mall is definitely stocked with the best ingredients. You just have to find the ingredients you need with the fastest speed. You can choose anything you like." "I got it." Iman nodded. That was right. The mall couldn't be damaging its own reputation. Angelina, who had just finished her makeup, clicked on the message too. She looked expectant. Interesting. They actually set this new rule. That is the mall that only the rich shop in. We don't often get this kind of shopping experience. At the same time, the Top Chef competition began its live streaming. The scene started from the contestants finishing their makeup and receiving the message from the programming division. The scene then switched to the stage. David smilingly said, "I didn't expect them to change the rules. I was wondering why the contestants were not here yet. I didn't expect the programming division to keep it a secret from us too. This rule is a new breakthrough. Getting the contestants out of the restaurant to choose their ingredients personally. This will test the contestants' ability to choose the ingredients. To a chef, this is a very important ability." Old Hunter nodded. "This is the Mocha Mall. It supplies the very best ingredients and it's also the special supplier for all the big F&B groups. It's harder than striking the lottery to find an unqualified ingredient in the mall. Another judge chimed in with a laugh, making an opening for the mall. The show's opening with the judges chit-chatting made the show's ambience become lively. However, there was an interesting phenomenon in the Top Chef competition's live streaming channels. The Top Chef competition's popularity went to an even greater level due to the Horus incident. The number of audience members in the official live studio was actually below the number of audience members in Hades' personal live studio. The respective number of audience members were 500 million and 550 million. I have turned on the dual screen mode. One to watch Brother Hades and the other to listen to the judges' comments. It's the best of both worlds. I have already switched off the main live stream. Listening to a group of gross middle-aged men chit-chatting affects my watching of a handsome man. He cooks so well and is so righteous. Moreover, he's also so good-looking. I'm in love. The others look shocked. Only my big brother is calm and collected. The bullet chat refreshed crazily and the number of audience members in both the live studios were still increasing rapidly. A staff member entered the dressing room and informed Mag that the live stream had already begun. He gestured to Mag to turn off his bangle and follow the staff member to the mall at basement 1. Mag turned off his bangle cooperatively. He threw a glance at the camera in the dressing room's corner. He wondered if any contestants' unglamorous behaviors were being streamed live. The 4 contestants gathered outside the lift. Mag nodded politely before standing there quietly. Whereas, Iman and Padas greeted him with a laugh, as though they were friends who had known each other for a long time. Meanwhile, their expressions were still "I don't know you" during breakfast in the restaurant. Mag lowered his eyes to hide the amusement in them. He didn't intend to perform too much in front of the camera. However, the maiden next to him didn't think so. She deliberately walked over to Mag quickly and stood in front of him. She said with a slight blush, "Mr. Hades, you must be completely at ease with the new rule, right?" Mag didn't expect Angelina to approach him in the competition, moreover, doing so in front of the camera. However, he couldn't ignore her, so he simply replied with a polite smile, "Choosing the ingredients is a chef's basic skill. There's indeed no pressure. My mother told me the same thing before." Angelina's eyes lit up as she looked at Mag with an increasingly adoring gaze and said with embarrassment, "But I have trouble making decisions. I guess I will be overwhelmed. I don't agree with this marriage. What's the matter with this girl? Is she adding in a relationship plot? It's so awkward. Where's my aloof goddess, Angelina? Why did she suddenly become a fangirl? And a little confused too. Ha ha ha. This is my first time watching this show. Am I the only one who thinks that these two are rather compatible? No, no. I am not into this couple. Brother Hades is mine." The bullet chat went into a frenzy. On the scene, Nancy was also giving Johnny an inquiring look. Johnny shrugged in befuddlement, showing that he had no idea about what was going on. At the start of the show, he had once thought about making the good-looking and capable Angelina a couple with another contestant to increase the contestant's popularity. However, this suggestion was rejected by Angelina because she didn't want to be a couple with anybody. The rejected man, Iman, was still on the stage right now. And now, Angelina suddenly took the initiative to approach Hades and did something that didn't match her persona. Hades' performance yesterday had indeed brought a lot of traffic to the show. However, the entire internet took him to be the reincarnation of justice now. Even the ridiculous thing of his personal live studio's number of audience members being greater than the main live studios had happened. At this time, Angelina's actions wouldn't bring in fans who liked them to be a couple. Instead, it would cause more doubts and hatred. However, with a heated discussion meant more traffic. Looking at the bullet chat curve that was being sent as feedback by the technical staff, Johnny quickly decided against reminding Angelina. "Wow! Is this woman trying to get close to my man? At the penthouse on top of the Twin Towers, a collie sat up straight and looked at Angelina judgingly before making a comment. Her butt isn't as perky as mine, her bosoms aren't as big as mine. She isn't as rich as me. She's not a threat. Chapter 2458 What is he doing? This phase didn't need the contestants to use all kinds of means to fight for popularity. She didn't have to approach him at this time and endanger her persona. Mag even suspected if this woman had any ulterior motives towards him. Otherwise, her behavior was simply too weird, it didn't match the ability that she had shown before. The elevator was here and Mag was the first one to walk in. He stood in the innermost corner. Mag thought Angelina would back off. He didn't expect her to step into the elevator before Iman and Padas and stand next to him. Mag suddenly understood why those idols hate the so-called Saseng Fan one. Even though she was a pretty maiden, it was annoying when she obstructed him in completing his mission. As though she had seen the coldness in Mag's eyes, Angelina took a step back and lowered her eyes. She looked at Mag with worry and befuddlement. She moved her lips, but she didn't try to interact with Mag again. Mag heaved a breath of relief. Fortunately, that woman could still sense his displeasure. The elevator traveled steadily from level 300 plus to basement 1. Iman took the initiative to chat with Angelina in a gentlemanly manner, but the latter wasn't interested. Her gaze was lingering on Mag. That guy looks like a dog. Feeling sorry for Iman for 3 seconds. However, this sudden relationship plot is really quite confusing. We always lust after what we can't get. Those who are loved have no fears. Iman's involvement added more effects to the show. The bullet chat also became increasingly boisterous. Padas looked at the three of them meaningfully. In the end, he chose to keep quiet smilingly. Their relationships were too complicated. He didn't know how to join them. It took only 30 seconds for the elevator to reach the basement 1 level. The group of them exited the elevator and received the sum of money from the staff members. 100,000 copper coins. This was the sum of money that the contestants received for this competition. 100,000 to buy the ingredients for one dish was extremely extravagant. However, to the contestants of the Top Chef competition, this cut in the funds was hard to accept. Perplexed expressions appeared on Iman and Padas' faces simultaneously. One had to know that since the 16th round, the ingredients provided by the programming division had easily cost hundreds of thousands of copper coins each. Together with the side ingredients, it was normal for the cost for all the ingredients to exceed 1 million. However, in the semi-final, the funding didn't increase. Instead, it dropped to 100,000. Are they so generous? Mag was surprised. After all, it was making one dish. He felt that 100,000 copper coins was more than enough. Take the charcoal grilled mutton ribs he made yesterday for example. One Haley goat only cost 20,000 copper coins. He only took 12 ribs, so its total cost wouldn't have been more than 5,000. As for the dish he wanted to make today, he had already decided in the elevator. He just had to go find the ingredients straight away later. After accepting the shopping card, Mag swiped on a shopping cart that followed him into the supermarket automatically. Angelina looked calm as well. After accepting the shopping cart, she cast a glance at Mag's back before striding into the supermarket quickly. Mag quickly located the fresh food section with the index on the shopping cart. He then found the beef section. Mocha Supermarket was a high-end mega supermarket that targeted the petty bourgeoisie. There were all kinds of high-end ingredients, and just for beef alone, there were hundreds of different types based on the different parts and places that they came from. The beef here was displayed after the cattle was slaughtered and dismembered. The cutting was perfect and it could be cooked right away after the customer bought it. However, after walking one round and feeling the temperature of a few types of beef, Mag shook his head disappointedly. He turned around and clicked on the consulting key on the shopping cart as he asked, "Where can I get fresh warm beef?" "The cart doesn't understand what you mean. Can you please repeat it?" the shopping cart replied with a gentle female voice. Is this artificial unintelligence? Mag pursed his lips. The artificial intelligence was switched off and a real person's voice answered, Hello, how may I help you? Mag straightforwardly asked, I want to buy beef that was slaughtered within the last hour and is unchanged tiled. Can you provide it here? Please hold on. I need to check first, the voice replied. On the other side, in the Mocha Supermarket's control center, the customer service supervisor looked at the supermarket's general manager inquiringly. The supervisor in charge of the abattoirs stood up and said, We have our own abattoir at basement 38. We have just received a batch of superior silver horn bison yesterday. If he wants, we can send it to him within 10 minutes. All right, then promise him that we can get him whatever he wants as long as it is within the main city area. The general manager ordered. The customer service supervisor nodded. He reconnected the call and said, Dear customer, according to your request, we will provide a custom-made service for you. May I confirm that you need a piece of beef that was slaughtered within the hour and is still warm? Do you have any other requests for the parts, weight, and species of the cattle? I need a 1.5 kilograms rump steak from a 1,500 kilograms silver horn bison, Mag said. He had just got the system to check the supermarket's purchase list. This was a ready ingredient with the right price. It matched his requirements perfectly. All right, please give us some time. The ingredients you need will be delivered to you within 10 minutes. May I ask if you need anything else? There's nothing else. Thank you. Mag switched off the voice inquiry and went to the seafood section based on the index. Within 10 minutes, Mag bought 1 kilogram of ordinary whitewater prawns, 2 pieces of pork rind that were in the discount area and some common spices and side ingredients. Together with that warm fresh beef that was sent punctually, his total spending was less than 3,000 copper coins. This is the so-called warm fresh beef. The color is bright red and the texture is bouncy. The body temperature of the beef is still maintained. Of course, you guys can use any other beef parts to replace it. However, the best choice is the bouncy rump steak. Mag showed the beef that he had just received to the camera and smilingly said, Now that I have finished buying the ingredients, I am going back to cook them. Wow, isn't he saving too much money for the programming division? He only spent 2,800 out of the 100,000 coins. I feel that Hades shops just like us. He buys whatever is cheap. The ingredients 2,800 price tag seems rather acceptable. Do you rich people shop like that? That's the cost of my monthly grocery bills, including fuel. The others are still bothered about their lack of funds while Hades has already finished shopping. I think that he clearly knew what he wanted to buy from the moment he stepped into the supermarket. The bullet chat refreshed rapidly. It was mostly praises for Mag. Meanwhile, at the same time, Iman was looking at the 2 fishes in the fish tank with a troubled expression at the seafood section on the other side. Which one should I choose? Iman scratched his head with a hesitant expression. Padas, in the meat section, had a similar expression. There were a lot of ingredients in his shopping cart right now, but he had a problem choosing the main ingredient. He couldn't make up his mind for a long time. Meanwhile, Angelina's efficiency at choosing the ingredients was high, but she seemed to need to buy a lot of ingredients. Her shopping cart was already half full, but she was still looking for something. David looked at Mag, who was the first to enter the elevator and return, with surprise, and commented, I didn't expect the contestant that is the most efficient at buying the ingredients today to be Hades, the slowest contestant yesterday. Julian shook his head and said, the lack of a horizon and a vision's restriction on a chef was obvious. Even receiving 100,000 coins, he didn't choose the best ingredients under that price. However, I think that he knew what ingredients he needed from the moment he stepped into the supermarket. Being expensive doesn't mean that it's the best, and neither does it mean that it is the best ingredient for the dish. Old Hunter immediately refuted him. The price of the whitewater prawns isn't especially outstanding because they are easy to catch in great numbers. It's not because they taste worse than other prawns. I think it can be ranked in the top 3 positions among seafood. Moreover, it's a fairly priced seafood that ordinary people can often eat. On the contrary, there are some contestants that are completely blindsided by the new rules. They couldn't even decide what ingredients they needed. They also wavered on the selection of the main ingredient. It's really worrying. Julian blushed. He naturally understood that Old Hunter was referring to Iman. As his master, he was naturally unhappy about that. He coldly said, "Prawns and beef are 2 contradicting ingredients. I want to see what he can do with them." Sensing their increased hostility, Nancy chuckled and said, "This is the first time we see a Top Chef competition's semi-finalist using ingredients that cost less than 3,000 coins. I am looking forward to seeing what kind of dish he can make." Julian flicked a glance at Nancy and kept quiet. His expression became graver. Judging from Miss Nancy's attitude towards Hades in these 2 days, she seemed to be very interested in this newbie. This wasn't great conditions for Iman to enter the final under. This was the first time he let his disciple take part in the Top Chef competition. One of the reasons was he had got a name list of the contestants in advance. He had made sure that there were no experts or very strong contenders in this year's competition. That was why he got Iman into the competition. The Top Chef competition was the top competition in the F&B industry. Moreover, the champion would have a chance to become the McCarthy Manor's special chef. Just as he expected, Iman, who had gained all his knowledge, got into the quarter-final successfully. According to their original plan, his only opponent was Angelina. As long as he could defeat her in terms of plating, he had a chance to be the champion. However, Hades suddenly appeared out of nowhere and managed to take the 3rd place despite the fact that his online score was far below theirs. He was only 1 point away from Iman. Julian didn't know what dish Mag would make today either. However, judging from the current situation, Mag's competitiveness seemed to have decreased greatly after he chose a normal piece of beef and 1 kilogram of the common whitewater prawns. Mag returned to the stage. There were only 4 workbenches left now. The top 4 contestants' numbers and names were written on them. Mag greeted the judges first before returning to the workbench. "Contestant Hades, we see that you have quickly returned after choosing the ingredients. We are all very curious about one thing. What dish are you going to cook today? You are using the silverhorn bison's beef and whitewater prawns, 2 ingredients that don't seem to match each other. Furthermore, why are you choosing these 2 ingredients?" David asked Mag curiously. This was perhaps one question that both the judges and the audience were curious about. The silverhorn bison comes from the Great Zawa grassland. Its meat texture is great, but its price is relatively lower than the other premium beef. It's a cost-effective beef that has a great quality. Meanwhile, the rump steak that I have chosen has relatively fewer tendons and fat, and it's fresh warm beef that was slaughtered around 30 minutes ago. The whitewater prawns taste great with a smooth texture. It's the best prawn. That fact won't change because of its friendly price. Meanwhile, the whitewater prawns that I have chosen came from the southern region of the whitewater. The water quality there is even better, and so the quality of the whitewater prawns is even better too. As for the dish I'm going to make today, I'm going to keep it a secret first. You guys will naturally find out after it's done," Mag replied with a smile as he took out his tools one by one and placed them on the workbench. A solid block of wood, 2 big iron rods that resembled weapons and 2 transparent glass pots. The judges nodded after listening to Mag. From Mag's answers, they knew that he had a great understanding about the ingredients that he had chosen. He didn't choose them because they were cheap, but because they were cost-effective. After experiencing the extreme example of him making the common Haley goat's ribs into an extremely scrumptious dish, the judges became more careful in their comments. Although, as judges, they had to take it in stride when they were proven wrong, being proven wrong publicly wasn't something very enjoyable. Mag looked at the teaching video that someone summarized yesterday. He felt sorry for the great editor while he praised his efforts. Hence, he still decided against explaining on the spot. As an idol, being suave was very important. The pork rind that was simply processed, was boiled in the waters. He needed to cook a pot of pork skin ASPIC1. He wasn't in a hurry to process the live white water prawns. He washed the beef that was still warm and removed the tendons and fat before hitting it on the block of wood with the 2 metal rods. Bam, bam, bam. The metal rods made a soothing sound when it landed on the beef, as though Mag was hitting on an excellent drum. The extremely fresh beef trembled slightly on the block of wood, as though it was undergoing a massage that it couldn't resist. It looked a little like a murder scene. However, when one looked closely, there was no blood and flesh flying about, despite the beef being hit by the 2 iron rods that were tens of kilograms heavy. The fresh beef became mushy in the hitting as it stuck together. It began to change its shape visibly. What is he doing? The judges and the audience all looked befuddled. The iron rods that were tens of kilograms heavy, looked like 2 light wooden rods in Mag's hands. He swung them at a shocking speed. The sounds that resembled drum beats were as frequent as raindrops. Only the faint shadows of the iron rods could be seen. They were so fast that the audience's eyes couldn't catch up. Mag's expression remained as calm as ever, as though he was doing a very simple and ordinary matter. Iman's workbench was still next to Mag's. He mumbled inwardly as he placed the ingredients he bought onto his workbench. What's he doing? Smashing the beef. He eventually chose a 50-centimeter long baby rainbow fish. He spent 90,000 coins, almost spending all his funds on it. If it was an adult rainbow fish, 100,000 coins wouldn't be enough. Tucker Restaurant was the most famous for its all-fish banquet. As Julian's best disciple, he also had great culinary skills in cooking fish. He deliberately held himself back in the previous rounds. The quarter-final yesterday was just a trial when he made the steamed yellow dragonfish. He would show them his real skills today. He deliberately checked on Hades' PK value when he woke up in the morning. It had already reached 7 points after conversion, which was just 2 points away from him. He had to show all he had today, otherwise he would have to leave this competition if Mag got another 95 points again. Padas had also spent all 100,000 copper coins. He chose the golden goat shank. This 6-tier magic beast was uncommon. Its texture was delicate, so it was rather popular. Angelina only spent half of her budget. She spent over 40,000 coins, but she got a whole cart full of ingredients. She had almost 3 times the amount of the other 3 contestants combined. The judges commented on the 3 contestants' ingredient choices. 30 minutes had already passed by now, so the contestants immediately entered the cooking stage. Mag hit the meat repeatedly and boringly, as though he was a meat-hitting machine with no emotions. How many times has he hit the beef by now? 10,932 times. He should have hit another 12 more times by the time I sent this bullet chat message. What is he trying to do? Smash the beef into minced beef? He could have done that with a meat grinder within 3 seconds. Perhaps Hades' cooking idea is to turn the simple cooking processes into difficult ones. The audience slowly became numb. They even began to count the number of times Mag had hit the beef. Mag was paying attention to the pork rind's condition in the pot during the hitting process. He immediately turned off the fire when the soup became white and thick. After Mag poured the thick pork rind soup into a shallow mold, he scooped out the white water prawns from the water tank at the side. As he waved his knife, white water prawn after white water prawn that were deshelled and deveined, began to appear on the chopping block. After Mag chopped the prawns into a smooth prawn paste, he stirred them into the thick soup and chucked them into the freezer to cool down rapidly. Yes. Mag was going to make the famous explosive pissing beef balls one. This famous snack was also one of Mag's favorite dishes in his previous life. As for why he chose it to be his semi-finals dish, it was because of its gimmicky and showy cooking process. Mag got the recipe from the system, but he hadn't gone into the test field for the god of cookery to practice it yet. However, going through all the recent training and grasping all the master's experience and recipes, Mag was still rather sure about doing it successfully on his first try. The terms explosive and beef balls were crucial to explosive pissing beef balls. The whitewater prawn's quality was better than the mantis shrimps, and hitting the beef manually had instilled a soul into it when compared to mincing it with a blender. He was using his experience as a chef to make sure that the beef was hit to the perfect condition. Mag's iron rods were specially made. Each of them weighed about 40 kilograms. A 3.5 kilograms iron rod was simply too light to him, and it would affect his performance. The beef turned into minced beef gradually under the rods, but Mag didn't seem like he was going to stop soon. The beef bone broth was boiling in the big pot at the side. A big bovine bone was ordinary, so the aroma that was slowly wafting out was not extraordinary. And then looking at Iman, who was processing the rainbow fish at the side. The colorful rainbow fish was already processed, and the various side ingredients were cut with all kinds of fancy cutting skills. They looked extremely pretty and attracted many audience members' attention. Of course, everyone was looking forward to Angelina, this maiden who was called the kitchen's magician. She was processing the ingredients that were spread all over her workbench. Surprisingly, there was no meat in her ingredients. They were vegetables. They are all vegetables? What kind of surprise would Angelina bring us today? I'm so curious, David said with surprise. Obviously, the judges only discovered this after she displayed all her ingredients on the cooking bench. Cooking a meat dish wasn't a must on the Top Chef competition, but compared to a vegetarian dish which was lighter in taste and more restrictive, the meat dish had a higher upper limit. Some contestants had made vegetarian dishes in the show before, and their scores were less than satisfactory. Today was the crucial semi-final, which would decide the finals name list. Yet, Angelina had decided to make a vegetarian dish, which was indeed unexpected. Iman and Padas also looked towards Angelina when they heard the comments. A hint of joy flashed across their eyes. Angelina was, with any doubts, the most competitive contestant in the competition now. Be it her full marks PK value, or her blue sky thinking, all the other contestants could hardly match up to her. They didn't expect her to do such a silly thing like cooking a vegetarian dish today. Did she forget to get her main ingredient? Cooking a vegetarian dish? Interesting. Mag raised his eyebrows slightly. He didn't think there were any issues with Angelina choosing to make a vegetarian dish. If the steamed Chinese cabbage in supreme soup one could make it into the state dinner's menu, why couldn't a vegetarian dish do the same as well? Only the chef that did the cooking mattered. The National Defense's building, the Marshal's office. Ferdinand was watching the live stream on the screen with a smile on his face. Judging from XI's feedback in the past 2 days, this chap was adapting to life in the underground city very well. He could even think of a solution to increase his account's traffic within a short time period. He soon gained Nancy's approval and received the McCarthy family's access card. Interesting chap. I want to see what kind of changes you can bring to underground city. Ferdinand closed his live stream interface and connected to his secretary's phone. Marshal, the president sent us a letter asking about your opinion on the Dixon family's money laundering issue. It's shocking. At the west of Tucker City, in an oval office of the checkered building that represented the underground city's administrative center, a thin middle-aged man in a smart black suit was sitting behind a desk. He was listening intently to a strapping man, who was sitting across from him, reporting to him about his work. Mr. President. The secretary strode into the office and interrupted their conversation. He walked to that middle-aged man quickly and said in a low voice, Marshal Ferdinand has given his reply. The president got up and shook the strapping man's hand. Welcome back to Tucker City, Cayman. Please go back to your wife and children first. I will be needing you soon. Cayman bowed slightly and said, I'll await your summons. Then, he left the office. "What did Ferdinand say?" the president asked his secretary. "The marshal said that he will support all your decisions and actions in upholding the law," the secretary quickly answered and took out the reply letter. "He indeed can't stand these fellows any longer," the president said in a low voice. "Make the preparations. I want to address the cabinet. The beautiful drum beats are luring me to sleep. Please give me a kick when the dish is done." Although I still have no idea what he is doing, I can say for certain that this fellow's upper arm strength is truly shocking. We can be sure that he's not going to grill the beef today. All you guys know is to praise him for his looks. Only I care if his arms hurt or not. The number of audience members in Mag's personal live studio had already exceeded 800 million. Because the beef hitting process was too boring and wasn't as interesting as the judges' comments, the main live studio's audience had already risen to 1,200,000,000. Nancy looked at Mag judgingly. She was also equally curious about the dish that Mag was going to make. Like the others, she thought Mag was going to grill some kind of meat today. She thought he was going to grill beef when he hovered around the beef section in the morning. However, even though he bought the beef, he didn't take out the grill rack. Instead, he cooked a helping of pork rind, chopped up 1 kilogram of whitewater prawns and hit the beef crazily with 2 iron rods. Even though the 10 judges on the stage were very knowledgeable, no one could guess what he was going to do. Looking at Iman on the other side, he had already put the fish into the pot. Judging from his cooking method, he should be making braised rainbow fish in soy sauce. That was one of the Tucker restaurant's signature dishes. Padas had also placed the golden shank into the oven after he marinated it. Looking at it, he should be making a roasted shank. One wondered if that had to do with Mag getting a high score with the grilled mutton ribs. Angelina's situation was similar to Mag's. The ingredients she chose were rather messy, so up till now the judges still had no idea what dish she was going to make. Of course, this was her specialty. Before she completed the dish, nobody knew if she really could create magic out of ordinary stuff. The minutes ticked past and the braised fish's aroma sneaked out of the pot, attracting hungry gazes. Tucker Restaurant, which had thousands of years of history and foundation, was deemed to be one of the top restaurants in Underground City, and Julian, as his head chef, had an extremely high status among the chefs too. It was obvious how talented Iman was, being able to join Tucker Restaurant and become Julian's best disciple. The so-called braised rainbow fish in soy sauce was just its common description. This dish was called the rainbow fish in Tucker Restaurant and was priced at 500,000 copper coins per helping. It couldn't just be ordered in the restaurant whenever one wanted. It had to be booked in advance. It was one of Tucker Restaurant's signature dishes, so some of the scenes that showed the cooking process in the live stream were censored. This was also why Julian allowed this dish to appear in the competition. He's even showing Tucker Restaurant's signature dish. "Master Julian, your disciple really wants to get into the final," David said to Julian smilingly. "If he has learned it well, there will be a spot in the final for him. If he didn't learn it well, he can't complain when he can't get into the final," Julian answered calmly. "You made things sound so good." Old Hunter chimed in rather sarcastically. The judges wanted to laugh, but they held it back for Julian's sake. Julian had indeed said it well. If Iman got into the final, it meant he had learned it well, which meant that he, as his teacher, had taught him well. If Iman didn't get into the final, it meant he didn't learn it well. What did it have to do with him? Julian snorted. He didn't want to argue with Old Hunter. Meanwhile, Padas' golden shank was also slowly turning golden and shiny in the transparent oven now. The aroma of the roast mutton gradually wafted over, competing with the fish's aroma. Nancy's nose twitched before shaking her head. Although the roast mutton aroma was rich, it simply couldn't compare with Hades' grilled goat ribs yesterday. He simply couldn't compare to the layered sensation created by Hades' seasoning. Meanwhile, the topic of recreating the charcoal grilled goat ribs had taken over WeTwit's trending list. Everybody, from ordinary folks to food bloggers had all taken part in it. It created an astonishing check in craze. This had never happened in the history of the Top Chef competition. This gave Nancy some new ideas. Delicious food created with ordinary ingredients was closer to the ordinary folks' life. It could create a resonance with the people and make them want to do it themselves. The golden shank was an ingredient that the ordinary folks couldn't afford, but the Haley goat was an ingredient that the ordinary folks could have every once in a while. Pados might think that he was inspired and found the secret of wealth, but he had no idea that with a great previous example, he might become a joke if he came out with a similar food item. And the most conspicuous among them was still Angelina. Angelina, who bought a cart full of vegetables, was setting up a mountain of meat on the huge plate. Thick steak, cut roast chicken, sliced mutton ribs. They were all stacked up in a pile, looking rather impressive. Mamma mia! It's shocking. Is she the legendary magician among the chefs? Where did she come up with all these meats from? My gosh! She created a plate full of meat dishes with just vegetables. It's simply too phenomenal. She's an artist. Being a chef is simply wasting her talent. These are mock meats, but they are too realistic. We can't even see the difference. The audience was shocked and they surged into Angelina's personal live studio in great numbers. Chapter 2461 Idle Brain. As the crisp ring sounded, Pados opened the oven and took out the golden brown golden shank. Its rich fragrance wafted around the place, attracting everyone's attention. The cameraman also zoomed into the golden shank, giving it a perfect one-shot. The mutton shank was glistening with a little oil like a glimmering piece of gold under the light. The agile golden goat had natural predators in the grassland and therefore, their speed and agility could help them avoid being preyed on by most of the predators. This also created their top-notch shank. This golden shank's color is fantastic. It's mocha mall indeed. You can actually find such top-grade ingredients here and it is way cheaper than I had expected, David commented in awe as he praised the program's sponsor without a trace of forcefulness. Based on the color and its unique fragrance, this golden shank is of very high quality. The ingredients' quality can be seen in various aspects. This is really something normal mutton cannot compare to. This also tests a chef's ability to choose their ingredients, Julian commented with a nod as he consciously looked at Mag. That comment seemed to be targeted. The judges all had varying expressions. Almost at the same time, Iman's rainbow fish was also ready. The moment he lifted the pot cover, the bright colors took everyone by surprise. The exquisite plating also made the dish even more beautiful. Pados and Iman were the first to raise their hands to indicate that they had finished cooking. The entire golden shank was placed on a retro-looking wooden plate. There were dots of green vegetables decorating the edges, bringing out the main dish and giving one a visual feast. Iman's rainbow fish was very exquisitely decorated. The 50-centimeter-long rainbow fish looked like there was a rainbow draping over it after some decoration on its beautiful skin. It was stunning. Mag took some time to look at the two dishes. There's nothing much to say about Pados golden shank. The perfect kitchenware produced the seemingly perfect dish. In other words, anyone with hands can do it. Other than the fact that the ingredient was expensive enough, there was nothing much to the overall cooking process, whether it was the seasoning or the techniques used. It was apparent that this chap only wanted to continue riding on the roasted mutton ribs wave from yesterday. On top of that, he thought that he had chosen a top-grade shank that could gain high points from the judges. He gave Iman's rainbow fish a second look. Be it the plating, overall presentation, or the fragrance, this dish was way better than the steamed fish he presented the day before. Amy would probably like it a lot. After all, it's a rainbow fish. I can bring back a few for them. Mag was already thinking of how to prepare this local specialty when he gets back. The rules of the competition remained the same. Those who finished first would be judged first. Pados's golden shank was placed on a large turning plate. The judges went around with compliments on the dish, but no one appeared too interested in it. The judges were either top chefs or known food critics. A roasted shank of this standard was really no surprise to them. There was nothing to compare to Mag's charcoal grilled mutton ribs, be it the fragrance of the cooking progress. The judges knew what Padas had in mind. Although they did not point it out directly, they really had nothing to compliment him about. A staff member cut the shank into small portions and delivered it to each judge. The judges took a bite and most of them gave perfunctory praises. If all of you are not saying it, I'll say it. Padas, your golden shank doesn't look bad, and the golden goat is indeed good for roasting. This is also a very classic cooking method. Old Hunter placed his fork down and told Padas seriously, however, your cooking method can be eaten at any restaurant that serves roasted shank. The only difference is that you've used the rare golden goat. I can say for sure that this golden shank is not a surprise to me at all. The seasoning is too ordinary and I even feel that you are wasting such a good shank. Padas, who initially thought he did well, suddenly did not look very well. He moved his lips but chose to stay silent. Yes. This roasted shank does taste very ordinary because it was not marinated well. There are very distinct layers of flavoring in the mutton and that is terrible. Nancy placed her knife and fork down after only tasting a little. She said very nonchalantly, you still have half an hour left and if you had used that time to marinate the thick piece of mutton, there would definitely be a different outcome. Although you might get a higher mark for being the first to present a dish since there is nothing to be compared to, what is more important to the judges is actually a chef's attitude towards his dish. Nancy's comments made Padas' face turn as pale as a sheet. He knew very well how much power Nancy has and this comment was equivalent to kicking him out of the finals straight away. Indeed. The judges gave their scores. Padas only got 75 marks and broke the record for the lowest score in the semifinals. Padas stood to the side in despair. This score was utter humiliation. Not only did it mean that he had no chance of getting into the McCarthy Manor, but it also meant that there would be a negative influence should he want to continue becoming a celebrity. Iman swallowed hard. It was very obvious that he was nervous. The judges seemed to be very strict today. On top of that, Miss Nancy, who would not usually comment, made such harsh criticism. This was really quite scary. Wow, I think Miss Nancy is super strict today. Those who tried to cheat their way would probably get a bad lashing from her. I still like Old Hunter's style. Just say it if you don't like what you're seeing. The other judges are just unwilling to say anything that will offend people. This competition has suddenly gone to the top 3 phases. Who will be eliminated? There's so much suspense. The audience started to get excited and there were more and more comments on the live stream. The golden shank was taken down. Only a tiny portion of it was eaten. The next dish that was brought up was Iman's rainbow fish. This dish was reputable as Tucker Restaurant's signature dish. Only wealthy customers would order this dish and it would be cooked personally by Julian. This could be the most famous dish in this season's Top Chef competition. This dish was initially Julian and Iman's trump card that they would use in the finals. However, to play safe, since Hades was the dark horse, they used it in the semifinals. To be honest, this is the first time I've seen a rainbow fish. Although this is the baby version, it is very stunning, David commented as he looked at the fish that was moving past him slowly. That's Master Julian's fault for setting the price of this dish so high. It's 500,000 for a fish. I really can't afford to eat it, a judge said with a smile. Although the rainbow fish was very popular, due to its pricey cost, Nancy was probably the only judge present to have ever tried it. It looks pretty decent. The cutting was done well and the plating is very exquisite, Old Hunter commented with a nod. After the display, a staff member took different parts of the fish and placed them on a small plate for the judges to try. Old Hunter put the meat from the fish's body into his mouth and his eyes lit up instantly. He tasted the fish slowly before swallowing it. Afterward, he took the meat from the fish's belly into his mouth. He smiled. Lastly, he put the meat near the fish head into his mouth and closed his eyes in enjoyment. This fish is top grade indeed. It is soft and tender. After swirling around at the tip of your tongue, it will slide down your throat, leaving its freshness behind in the mouth. This meat near the fish head is especially the best of the best. It is very fresh and it is where all the essence of the fish is. I only took a gentle bite and almost bit my own tongue. Old Hunter looked at Iman with admiration. This fish was seasoned just right. It did not mask the freshness of the fish but brought it out even more and made it better. Thank you. Iman heaved a sigh of relief. Old Hunter and his master had never been easy to satisfy in this program. He did not expect such a good review. It's not easy to hear compliments from Old Hunter. But it is just as he has said. This rainbow fish is a pleasant surprise indeed. As expected from a good teacher. This is the best fish thus far in this season's competition. David put his chopsticks down and gave Iman a thumbs up. Iman bowed humbly. Although he was trying very hard to control his expression, he still could not fight the upturning of his lips. Julian looked at Iman gladly. He felt proud when he heard the praises the judges had for his disciple. If all went smoothly, Iman had probably gotten one of the slots for the finals. Nancy only tried a piece of the meat near the fish head and she placed her chopsticks down emotionlessly. As someone who had tried the rainbow fish more than once in Tucker restaurant, she could tell that Iman's dish could only be considered okay. However, he did have very strong foundations. Otherwise, he would not be able to helm the restaurant with this dish. Of course, this standard would not make her have the desire to pull him into the McCarthy manner. With his teacher there, who's better, if she really wanted to have the rainbow fish at home, all she needed to do was to make a call to get Julian to come over to make it for her. Why would she need to bring his disciple back? The high praise from the judges gave Iman a score of 93. That was a considerably high score in the Top Chef competition. Not yet 95. Iman was slightly disappointed. However, this was already the highest score he had gotten from the judges in the Top Chef competition. He was just a little indignant that he could not beat Hades' score for the grilled goat ribs. However, his score of 92.7 today was much higher than the previous day after it was deducted based on ratio, and his 9 PK points were added. When he saw his final score, Iman could not help but smile. However, Angelina's threat was still there. After all, she had full marks for her PK points. But Hades was different. Although his PK value increased dramatically compared to the day before, it was currently only at 7 points. According to the current score, if Hades wants to overtake Iman, he has to get above 96 marks for the judges' score. Big brother Iman is doing exceptionally well today. I feel that things are getting difficult for Hades and Angelina. It looks like Angelina is almost done with her dish. But I still don't have a clue what Hades is cooking up. I think he might be making a pot of minced beef with prawn. 25,632 times. Are those robot arms? The number of viewers in the Top Chef competition's live stream had gone past 1.6 billion people. The rainbow fish had quite a good effect on the program. Mag was still pounding his beef calmly. The bright red beef was utterly mashed. It was sticky yet bouncy. After continuously pounding for over 20,000 times, Mag was almost done with the beef. The god of culinary pounded the beef 26,800 times to make the explosive pissing beef balls. Mag had decided to stick to this number. On the other side, Angelina had already completed her dish. While she pressed the little bell on the table, she turned to look at Mag worriedly. Iman got a very high score. Although she was confident in herself, she could not help but worry for Mag. It was rather difficult to satisfy all 10 judges in the Top Chef competition at the same time. The camera zoomed in on Angelina's dish. It was a well-structured but rough-looking meat mountain. Various types of meat were stacked into a little mountain. It was very bright and colorful and looked very appetizing. She used a pile of vegetables to make a mountain of meat. Angelina indeed. David looked at the meat mountain that passed by him and complimented her. Even when you observe it closely, you can't tell the difference between this and real meat. It even smells like meat. This is a very innovative idea that displays very good skills. This is the first time I'm seeing mock meat being made live. Well done. Old Hunter praised her too. Another impressive show. Just when everyone thought she was going to make a vegetarian dish, she made a meat dish with vegetables. The judges were full of praise and interest in Angelina's dish. In comparison, Iman merely recreated Julian's rainbow fish, and as Julian's disciple, Iman's dish was not too much of a surprise. However, Angelina managed to keep everyone in suspense when buying the ingredients. This final presentation of the meat mountain further exceeded everyone's expectations. It was like watching an artist create a work of art. It was breathtaking. This maiden is rather interesting. She knows how to play the game. Mag was also shocked to see the meat mountain. If Angelina were to behave a little more normally around him, he would have complimented her more. However, this young lady seemed a little abnormal. Maybe she had an idle brain? I have met many chefs who are specialized in making mock meats, and a few friends who are great at this, but I believe that Angelina's achievements will definitely be greater than theirs in the future. This greatness has nothing to do with techniques. It is completely decided by her gift in aesthetics. A female judge praised. All the judges showed their admiration and praises for Angelina. Compared to the comments that they gave to Iman, they were obviously better. Compared to Iman, who has a good master, the judges indeed prefer Miss Angelina, who has her own creativity. The upper limit that Iman has displayed now may never reach Julian's standard, but the judges have seen the boundless possibilities in Angelina. I think that Iman is on dangerous grounds right now. I don't know how many points she can get, but her PK point is full marks. As the judges' scoring countdown began, the audience's curiosity was aroused. After the countdown ended, the judges' scores and final scores appeared on the giant screen. Angelina, judges' score, 94. Total score, 94.6, temporarily ranked at the first place. Everyone exclaimed softly. It has appeared. The highest score in this year's Top Chef competition. This score is also among the top scores of all the past year's Top Chef competition. She's indeed the favorite at winning the competition. Her score is also crushing Iman's. The bullet chat refreshed crazily, showing the shock for this score. This. Iman clenched his fists secretly. Although he was feeling rather indignant, he still maintained a faint smile. Angelina looked at her score with ill-concealed happiness. She bowed to the judges to show her appreciation, but her gaze soon turned to Mag. 3 contestants had already completed their cooking, only Mag was still cooking now. The camera and the audience's gaze all turned to Mag. After the last hit of the rod landed, Mag put down his iron rods and scooped the minced meat into a big bowl. He added various spices and seasonings into it and began to knead and shape it. The smooth minced had already had its fats and tendons removed. A round ball emerged from the gap of his fingers with just a gentle squeeze. It was in the perfect state. Mag took the prawn paste that was already frozen into a jelly from the fridge. He swiped his cleaver across the plate and the prawn paste jelly was cut into many small squares. He got a pot and poured warm water into it. He maintained the temperature of the water over a mild fire before he really got to work on making the explosive pissing beef balls. He grabbed the minced beef paste with one hand and squeezed a meatball about the size of his thumb in between his thumb and forefinger. He poked a hole in it with his finger and stuffed a piece of prawn paste jelly into it. He used his finger to smooth the beef paste over to cover the hole, before using a spoon to swipe across his forefinger and thumb. A round meatball made a beautiful parabola and landed into the pot gently. There was no big splash at all. His actions were smooth. Mag grabbed the beef paste with one hand and held the spoon with the other hand. The bright red beef balls formed a line in the air as they fell into the pot. Is he performing tricks? Why is his action so smooth? David couldn't help getting closer to take a look. Is he making meatballs? But why is he putting the frozen prawn paste in the meatball? Old Hunter asked with doubts. Forget about the rest, the action looks so good. His skilled craftsmanship is indeed entertaining, a female judge said with an expression of appreciation. Interesting. Did he hit the paste 20,000 times to make beef balls? Nancy looked at Meg, who was like an acrobatics master, with an increasingly brighter smile and anticipation. Perhaps, other than charcoal grilled mutton ribs, he might even give her more surprises. For example, this complicated and weird beef ball? Flamboyant stuff. It's unqualified to allow him to take his place in the higher circles. Iman looked at Meg without any worry in his expression. If it was just beef balls, he didn't think that Meg could defeat him. The beef was just ordinary beef and the prawn paste was also made with the common white water prawns. What was he going to defeat him with? With his acrobatics skills? Brother Righteous is awesome. This technique is going to cause a lot of bloggers to flop. I have had beef balls with fillings before, but why did he freeze his filling in advance? I've just come in. May I ask, is it the Top Chef competition's live stream? Although I still have no idea what he is doing, it doesn't dissuade me from saying this, Brother Righteous is awesome. The audience was obviously shocked by Meg's operation. The repeated hitting previously made them feel sleepy and disoriented, but this meatball making technique made them alert. The beef balls quickly set in their shape in the pot of warm water. The round balls looked rather cute. Compared to the draggy hitting, making the beef balls was short and rapid. In just a short while, the big puddle of beef paste became floating beef balls in the pot. Mag washed his hands and switched off the fire. He scooped the beef balls that had set from the warm water and placed them in the beef bone broth at the side. The balls continued to cook in the broth. Mag's unusual beef balls making techniques had successfully attracted the judges' and audience's attention. Compared to the other contestants' cooking, his cooking process was obviously more complicated and nicer to watch. Time passed rapidly. Mag switched off the fire and removed the cover, and the explosive pissing beef balls were done. The round beef balls were rolling about in the soup pot and the bone broth's aroma wafted out together with the heat. It wasn't rich, but it was fragrant and pleasant. Mag placed 4 beef balls into a small with a ladle of broth. He said to the judges, "This is the explosive white water beef balls. Please taste it." The staff member stepped forward and sent the 10 helpings of explosive beef balls to the judges' table. There was no plating. The beef balls were simply put into small bowls and sent to the judges' table. Such a presentation was rare in the Top Chef competition. David scooped up a beef ball, shook his head and said, "Although the entire process is rather unique, this helping of explosive white water beef balls looks ordinary. There is nothing special about its smell, or its presentation." The judges looked disappointed. They thought Hades, who gave them a great surprise yesterday, would give them something unusual today as well. However, it doesn't seem so now. However, Miss Nancy seemed to be very interested in him yesterday. They thought he was going to be the chosen one in this season, and get into the final with Angelina. Looking at his disappointing dish, it was not easy for them to help him advance. Julian had a faint smile on his lips. Iman had already made it into the final. He only had to show his trump card at the final tomorrow and he would be the champion. That's all? It looks so disappointing. Iman already had a victorious smile on his face. Hades, whom he had been guarding against, failed spectacularly at the semi-final. This helping of beef balls looked like those from a roadside stall. How was he going to compete with him? This beef balls cooking method is much more complicated than yesterday's grilled mutton ribs. Brother Hades must have hid some secret within it, right? Angelina grasped the corner of her clothes tightly as she turned to look at Hades. She was feeling very expectant. What is it? Did he decide not to go on with the competition because he has already completed his mission in advance? Keeping a low profile is a tactic too. Perhaps, he could get into the McCarthy Manor a day in advance. Xi was thoughtful. Oh no. This beef ball looks disappointing. I think Brother Righteous is going to leave the competition soon. Grilling is his forte. Why did he want to make the beef balls today? If he had done a helping of charcoal grilled golden shank, he should be able to get into the final, right? The judges haven't tried it yet, so there's no need to jump to conclusions. Perhaps, it tastes even worse. The audience also looked disappointed with the beef balls. After all, the charcoal grilled mutton ribs yesterday were amazing, which increased everybody's expectations. Now, this helping of beef balls looked way below their expectations. Most of the audience thought that Mag didn't have a chance anymore. He might even get a very low score. But Mag remained as calm as ever, with no explanations and arguments. He was only waiting for the judges to taste it. You have to taste certain things for yourself. There is point in saying anything. Nancy looked at Hades and then at the little bowl in front of her. 4 round beef balls were floating in the pure white beef bone broth. The beef balls' surfaces were smooth and their sizes were almost equal, as though they were made by a machine, when they were handmade by Mag. Some chopped green onions were floating on the soup's surface, decorating and keeping the round little beef balls company. They looked rather delightful. Looking at the finished product, Nancy was also a little disappointed. However, when she saw Mag's calm expression, she couldn't help but be curious about the secret within the beef balls. What made him feel so confident? Perhaps he let himself go on the competition because he already got the access pass to the McCarthy Manor? If that was the case, then she would have to reconsider her decision yesterday. The most important thing about a dish is still its taste. Nancy used a spoon to scoop up a beef ball. The fresh aroma of the beef ball greeted her head-on. It was a pure fragrance. Then, she opened her mouth and took a bite of the beef ball lightly. Splat! It was the sound of an explosion. It was as if a balloon that was filled with water was burst, and the rich and aromatic soup shot out from the small hole and exploded in Nancy's mouth. Hot! The soup that was still hot, shocked the taste buds on the tip of the tongue. However, the freshness that greeted the taste buds brought great consolation to them. That was an extreme sweetness. It was dissolved in the soup like the spring rain, soothing the taste buds that were shocked. This was the first time she realized that the white water prawns were so sweet, and the beef's aroma within it made the taste buds go crazy. The soup that shot out unexpectedly had an extreme umami that was beyond expectations. It almost made Nancy lose control of her expressions. However, as a professionally trained socialite, she had to strictly control her expression and behavior in the live stream where hundreds of millions of people were watching live. After a period of intense control of her expressions changes, Nancy pursed her lips gently and made a moan uncontrollably. All the judges were paying attention to Nancy, who was the first to taste the beef balls. After hearing that moan, their expressions immediately became weird. Miss Nancy rarely lost her composure on stage. Why did she lose control over this tiny beef ball? Nancy blushed. She was already restraining herself very hard. She even used some of her power to suppress her expressions, but her natural reactions were too powerful. She even lost some of her resistance. Nancy looked at Mag aggrievedly. This fellow actually set a trap in the beef ball, and he didn't give her a reminder beforehand. Fortunately, she only took a small bite and the soup that squirted out was limited. Otherwise, she wouldn't know how to end this. However, the soup was simply too flavorful. It had piqued her appetite. She didn't feel that sensation in the 4 previous dishes. She simply couldn't wait for long. She blew at the beef ball gently before putting the beef ball into her mouth gingerly. She knew what to do this time round. She bit into the beef ball and the soup within it flowed inside her mouth gently, but the beef ball's smooth and tender texture amazed her. The beef that was hit over tens of thousands of times was extremely smooth. However, just because of this special technique of hitting, the beef was able to keep its muscle fiber. While it was smooth, it also kept the bouncy texture. The pure beef ball magnified the beef's original taste. It was so mesmerizing. In that instant, she seemed to arrive on the grasslands and see a herd of healthy bison stomping across in front of her. That was the fragrance of green grass. That was the air of freedom. The clash of the white water prawns and the beef. The extreme sweetness and texture exploded in her mouth. Her taste buds were in a riot, giving her a huge impact. Rib. One of Nancy's straps on her gown broke and her dress slipped down a little, revealing her beautiful collarbone. Whoa! Everyone was shocked and Johnny leaped up on the spot right away. Oh my gosh! Did he put explosives in the beef balls? Luckily it's just the strap that broke. A pity it's just the strap that broke. 3. What makes this proud and noble woman keep falling into such an unglamorous situation? Is it the warped human psyche or that the beef balls are too good? The netizens all had huge reactions too. Why would such ordinary-looking beef balls create such a strong reaction in Nancy? One must know that Nancy had always been aloof and her demeanor fitted her status as a young mistress from a wealthy family. Therefore, something must be wrong with this beef ball. The audience started wondering what secrets were hidden within this beef ball that could make Nancy forget her manners on a program. This can't be. Iman suddenly had mixed emotions. Nancy's reactions were too strong. It was completely different from the calm look she had to the 3 people whose food she had tasted before Hades. This made him have a bad feeling. It was just like the charcoal grilled mutton ribs from yesterday. It looks impressive. It actually made Miss Nancy's strap break. Looks like there's no need to worry at all, Angelina thought to herself as she smiled brightly. Nancy was immersed in the enjoyment of the explosive beef balls. It was only after she swallowed the beef ball and opened her eyes slowly did she realize that her strap actually broke. Thankfully, the gown was designed with the consideration that a wardrobe malfunction might happen and hence the dress did not slide down when the strap broke, preventing an even more awkward situation from happening. However, Nancy was already feeling so awkward her toes were curling. She had never been so embarrassed in front of others before, not to mention in front of billions of people during a live stream. As a socialite who had been through rigorous training since she was young, Nancy might feel awkward but she did not let it show on her face. She gently picked up her broken strap with her long fingers and cast a little spell to stick it back to the dress. At the same time, she said with a smile, "Even my dress is shocked by the taste of this beef ball. Mr. Hades has brought me a pleasant surprise once again, and also a little shock." As she said that, she glanced at Mag grudgingly. Mag's eyes were clear and innocent, as though this had nothing to do with him at all. The judges all had various thoughts when they heard the comment. Miss Nancy's comments had set a certain standard for Hades' dish. It seemed Miss Nancy had shown great interest and care for Hades since yesterday. They did not know if the explosive white water beef balls were really as good as she said or if she was just doing this so that Hades could get a good result. "Let me try it and see if this beef ball really is different from what it appears to be." Old Hunter picked up a beef ball with his spoon and put it into his mouth. After that, he took a big bite. The beef ball exploded in his mouth. Soup squirted out and it was so scalding hot that he almost spat it out. How is this a surprise? This is just a shock. However, the scrumptious taste of the soup started blooming in his mouth immediately. It was fresh and sweet, with a hint of fragrance from the white water prawns paste. It soothed his startled taste buds and blossomed into a shocking delicious taste. Old Hunter, who did not have many expectations for it, was shocked. So this is the so-called exploding. He froze the pork rind soup with some prawn paste jelly and wrapped it within the beef ball. While the beef ball cooks, the soup within melts to become this surprise hidden within the round beef ball. Old Hunter's eyes lit up. He could not help but applaud Hades' innovation. After drinking the soup, Old Hunter chewed on the beef ball slowly. The chewy texture also surprised him. When they first watched Mag pound the beef tens of thousands of times to make it into meat paste and saw him squeeze the paste into beef balls, they all did not have many expectations for the texture of the beef ball. However, he was slapped in the face by reality. This beef ball had an excellent texture. It was fresh and chewy, making it taste even better than fresh beef. On top of that, the pounding process got rid of the tendons and fats in the meat, making the meat exceptionally smooth and fine. The more one chewed on it, the more fragrant it got. This was really an addictive enjoyment. Rib. Old Hunter was wearing a tight shirt. At the front, 2 buttons burst open and at the back, the cloth ripped open. One Eureka! Old Hunter shouted with excitement. He looked at Mag and said, "You're pounding it and not cutting it so the muscle tissues of the meat were not severed. This allows the texture of the beef to be retained. Am I right?" "Yes." Mag nodded. "What a genius method." Old Hunter gave Mag a thumbs up. He complimented him. "This dish gave me the biggest surprise for today. The combination of beef and prawn was unexpectedly perfect." Old Hunter's comments made the other judges have an even higher expectation of the beef balls. One had to know that Old Hunter was the most straightforward judge. He did not care who the chef was and only commented on the dish before him. For him to give such a good review meant that this beef ball really surprised him. 2 consecutive judges' clothes ripped. "This beef ball is sick. There seems to be a change in the situation. Could Brother Righteous make it to the finals with these ordinary-looking beef balls? What are these judges saying? Can't they be more professional? Let me try it too." How infuriating! The audience's anticipation rose even higher. On the top floor of the Twin Towers, Akali looked at the beef balls in the small bowl on the screen. She frowned as she muttered to herself, "Even though I love our big brother Hades' looks, this beef ball doesn't look that good at all. Why did Nancy's dress rip after she just had one of them? Has she always been so sensitive?" After that, she ordered the secretary beside her. "Get me a bowl." "Young mistress, I..." The secretary was put on the spot. "He only made 12 mutton ribs yesterday, so if you can't get your hands on them, it doesn't matter. Today, he cooked a large pot of beef balls. There is still about half a pot left. If you can't even get your hands on those, you can scram." Akali said coldly. "I'll get right to it," the secretary replied quickly and rushed off. At the competition ground, beads of perspiration had already started forming on Iman's forehead. Nancy and Old Hunter both gave Hades' explosive white water beef balls very good reviews after tasting them. This made him feel pressure despite initially thinking that he would make it through smoothly to the finals. These two had almost never given such comments in the Top Chef competition before. Right now, all he could do was pray that the other judges had differing comments about the beef balls. That way, Hades would not get such a shockingly high score as he did yesterday. Different from the beef ball's exterior, the exploding texture caught the judges unaware. Julian looked around him with a grave heart. The judge's behavior didn't look beneficial to Iman. What was the secret in this beef ball? Then, he scooped up a beef ball and studied it carefully for a minute. However, he still couldn't see anything special about it. Then, he popped it into his mouth. Julian bit into it and felt as though he had bitten into an egg. The tender beef was cut open by his teeth and the piping hot soup squirted out immediately. Mmm. Julian was shocked. He didn't expect that there was soup in the beef ball. He soon understood that it was the white water prawn jelly which Hades wrapped inside the beef balls. He didn't expect that it would be a highlight. The prawn paste's umami and the fresh beef ball's bouncy and sweet texture made this beef ball far exceed his expectations. The dish that was made with cheap ingredients was far more impactful than the previous 3 dishes that were made with expensive ingredients. As an old chef, who had cooked for hundreds of years, and one of the best in the industry, he had to admit that this explosive white water beef ball was indeed impressive. This could be a signature dish of a restaurant. All it needed was just exquisite plating. Given Hades' age, he was indeed a genius among the geniuses. If he didn't have a master and came up with the charcoal grilled mutton ribs yesterday and the explosive white water beef balls today all by himself. Now, Iman is on dangerous ground. Julian's became increasingly grave. Although he also wanted his beloved disciple to advance to the final, Miss Nancy's great favor and recognition for Hades would definitely affect the other judges' scores. Moreover, as a 3 times judge of the Top Chef competition, he received great remuneration and fame for his appearance. He couldn't help his disciple too obviously. It's indeed very creative and surprising to wrap the white water prawn paste in the beef ball. And, the selection of the ingredients is also very complimentary. Compatibility is the best. All chefs should learn about that. Julian put down his spoon and said to the camera, however, there are many steps in completing a dish before presenting it to the diner. First of all, it will be the presentation of the dish, which is the so-called plating. I think contestant Hades could improve in this area to make his dish look more attractive. Thank you. Mag nodded with a smile, but he scolded him as a sly old fox inwardly. The other judges had heaped praises on Hades, so Julian didn't find fault in the taste. He even praised it before criticizing the plating. If it wasn't for the fact that he thought plating was a bother, he could have carved 2 little flowers and put them in. It would definitely be pretty. I think there is nothing wrong with simple plating like this. After all, not all restaurants are as posh as Tucker Restaurant, where every dish has to be plated elegantly. David chimed in with a smile. In the alleys at the west of the city, there are many such small restaurants where such plating is common. The amount isn't great, but the taste is good. The plating isn't delicate, but the taste is way better than those big restaurants. It will be great to eat a small bowl of piping hot beef balls like this in the winter morning. Who needs such frivolous plating? I agree with that. Eating the balls and drinking the bone broth from a small bowl with some chopped green onions is better than trying to scoop them from a big basin. Old Hunter chimed in too. When it came to the details of eating, a professional food critic like David definitely knew more. All the judges nodded their heads in agreement. Nancy polished off the 4 beef balls in small bites and finished all the beef bone broth in the bowl before realizing that she was full. She was impressed with Hades' performance again. She thought she had found an expert in grilling, but now, she seemed to have found an expert in making balls too. Getting this chef was a bargain. 2. Director, the number of online audience members has exceeded 2,000,000,000,000. The assistant's voice sounded in his earpiece and Johnny's eyes lit up. He clicked on his bangle and glanced at the live studio. Indeed, the main live studio of the Top Chef competition had just exceeded 2 billion, reaching historical numbers. Moreover, this was also the Weetwits live studio record numbers. The Hades incident together with Nancy's strap breaking off incident had brought a scary number of traffic to the show. This chap is really our lucky star. Johnny stared at Hades with glowing eyes. He was still lamenting over Jasper's departure from the show, but looking at it now, that was really an awesome thing. Otherwise, this year's Top Chef competition, which had been called the most boring Top Chef competition ever, wouldn't have this record number of audience members. We have to let him get into the final. Johnny rolled his eyeballs. He quickly typed a line of words on his bangle and sent it out. The judges' comments on Hades' explosive white water beef balls were as exciting as the roller coaster. From the low expectations of the dish's outlook to the shock at the tasting, the comments were going up and down, bringing the audience's emotions along with it. However, Iman and Angelina had also received very high scores and their PK values were ahead of Hades, so whether Hades could get into the final was unknown. Alright, since the judges have finished the tasting and have given contestant Hades explosive white water beef balls an extremely high commentary, can he create a miracle again like yesterday? Let's get our judges to give the score now, the MC said loudly and a 15 seconds countdown clock appeared behind the judges. The audience quieted down and everyone focused on the countdown on the giant screen. Iman clenched his fists tightly as cold sweat dripped down his forehead and nose and fell to the floor. He had never imagined that Hades' ugly beef balls could bring him such a huge threat. It doesn't feel so bad if he is eliminated as well. Pados flicked a glance at Iman with a schadenfreude smile. He was confirmed to be eliminated, but to be able to see Iman, who was always haughty because his master was one of the judges, get eliminated, his mood had increased greatly. However, this fellow, who appeared out of nowhere, was really powerful. The judges heaped praises on him for both of his dishes. That had never happened before in the entire season. Online PK score, 7. Total score, 93.4. It was silent and all of a sudden, the crowd erupted into a roar. The 96 judges' score was glittering. It was indeed glowing. More importantly, he happened to crush Iman and take second place. He advanced to the final successfully. 96 points. This judge's score is absolutely incredible. He's so powerful. I thought 95 is already the upper limit, but it's only the start for him. He's indeed my brother righteous. He's so powerful. The screen was filled with "Brother Righteous is awesome," so the audience's emotions were obvious. Iman went white. His body swayed and he almost fell down. He thought he was going to win, but he didn't expect Hades to get a 96 points high score and overtake him to be second place with a slight advantage. 96 points. That was the highest ever score on Top Chef competition. Yesterday's 95 points was shocking enough. Who could have imagined that this ordinary-looking beef ball could overtake it? This. Julian frowned with an ill-concealed surprise in his eyes too. In order to let Iman advance, he had only given Hades 8 points, which meant at least 7 judges had given Hades a perfect 10 score. Of course, Hades' sudden rise was the first black horse on this year's Top Chef competition. His past 2 performances were impressive, so it wasn't a surprise that the judges liked him so much. If it wasn't for the fact that he had only joined the show for a short period of time and his PK value was low, even Angelina wouldn't be his match. Nancy curved her lips. He was indeed the man that she had taken a fancy to. He always gave them surprises. And judging from Johnny's earlier feedback, Mag was responsible for this semi-final's great numbers. Brother Hades is awesome. At the top of the Twin Towers, a collie jumped up from the sofa and looked at Hades on the screen with glowing eyes. He's handsome, great at cooking and acting cool. He's the template for the male lead. I can't miss out on such a man. Did he come up with new dishes specially for the competition after he came to Underground City? XI looked at Mag, who seemed to be glowing on stage, as though he was a monster. Even though she wasn't Mamie Restaurant's regular customer, she was certain that the 2 dishes that appeared in the competition weren't on the menu. Meanwhile, looking at the 10 professional judges' behavior and scores, those were not perfunctory dishes that were cooked up at the last minute. What made XI even more surprised was Mag, who was cooking on the stage. He was really enjoying the cooking process. The Norland continent's most powerful powerhouse, a super powerhouse who was almost stepping into the extraordinaire's realm, was serious about being a chef. He's so awesome. Angelina was looking at Mag with a fangirl glow in her eyes. It was another high score that broke this year's Top Chef competition's record. Moreover, she guessed that Iman's master must have dragged down the score. Otherwise, it would be an even higher score. Thank you. Mag nodded with a smile. He didn't seem to be too surprised about this score. Indeed, this didn't reach his expectations. He thought he would get a perfect score. After all, this was the improved version of the explosive pissing beef balls. He had swung the iron rods for over 26,000 times. Wasn't it too much not to give him a perfect score? However, this score was good enough. At least, he could advance to the final. At this time tomorrow, his internet's PK value should reach approximately 9 points. When he competed with Angelina at the final, they would be competing with their real potential. All right. As contestant Hades' final result is released, this season's semi-final has concluded. Angelina and Hades are ranked first and second respectively with 94.6 and 93.4 points. They have advanced to the final. Iman and Padas have given us an exciting competition and a great tasting dish. It's a pity that they have lost and are going to leave our Top Chef competitions stage. The MC formally announced the competition's result. Even though Iman was feeling indignant, he remained calm and congratulated Hades and Angelina. Although his journey had stopped at the semi-final and he wouldn't be able to join the McCarthy Manor, he was still the disciple of the Tucker restaurant's head chef and the person going to take over its reins. His future was still as bright as before. Congratulations, Hades! Hades YYDS 1.YYDS, Yang Yuan De Shen, YYDS, means eternal God and describes an outstanding person or thing. It's similar to the saying GOAT, greatest of all time, in English. The phrase is often used by fans to praise their idols or simply to describe something they are fond of. Will a perfect score miracle appear in tomorrow's final? I feel that Hades is truly a treasure boy. Did the programming division do it on purpose? Did they deliberately hide him before letting him join the competition as a replacement? I think maybe the director's brain has short-circuited. He actually kept such an attraction to the very last part of the show. The bullet chat's messages were all congratulating Hades for his advancement to the final. Johnny looked at the 2,100,000,000 people watching the show at its peak with tears. He also thought that his brain was probably fried. He didn't discover Hades, this supernova, right at the beginning and almost created the most boring Top Chef competition ever. Then, it was the sensational farewell of the two eliminated contestants. As part of the top 4 contestants, they had gained a lot of fame through the Top Chef competition. No matter if they chose to return to their work as a chef, or debut as a star, they were going to have a great future. Meanwhile, as the contestants who had advanced to the final, Mag and Angelina received praises from the judges. After all the polite words, this live stream that caused a huge repercussion in Underground City, finally ended. Mag turned on his bangle as he walked down the stage. There was still one final match tomorrow. Nancy should make the arrangements for him to go to the McCarthy Manor after that. Before that, there was something he needed to do first. Mr. Hades. A voice came from behind him. Mag frowned and turned to look at Angelina behind him. Angelina bit on her lower lips and said with a blush, I would like to invite you for lunch, please. Wu Ding the bangle vibrated and Mag casted a glance at it. There were 2 messages. Mr. Hades, let's have afternoon tea together. Nancy. Brother Hades, come have lunch with me today. My car is just under the building. You have to come. Akali. Oh, this. Mag furrowed his brows deeper. Angelina saw Mag's solemn expression and got nervous. She lowered her eyes and blushed furiously. Pardon me. I don't want to have weird rumors during the competition. Maybe next time. Mag shook his head and rejected her. This excuse. Angelina tears brimmed in her eyes and she bowed at Mag sorry. Then, she quickly walked away. Sorry, can one survive with pretty looks? One could survive with a rich lady. Mag couldn't give every little sister a warm home, so keeping a distance from them was his last consideration for them. I'm not free. Sorry. Mag gave Akali a cold reply. He was sure that the McCarthy family would conduct an onboarding review on him. If they found out that he had something going on with Akali, he would most probably get rejected. After all, the Dixon family and the McCarthy family had never gotten along and the Dixon family had suffered greatly due to the Horus incident. Mag was equally wary about Akali. Even though she behaved like a crazy married Fang girl, that didn't mean she was a brainless woman. On the contrary, she was the smartest person among the Underground City's plutocrats' younger generations. Otherwise, how could she have owned Tucker City's landmark building, the Twin Towers? Then, he gave Nancy a succinct reply, sure. Having a certain level of aloofness was the secret to keeping a woman interested and curious in you, and eventually bankrupt her. This wasn't just a joke. A high-born lady like Nancy, who had been treasured since she was young, had many bootlickers around her. At a time like this, a faint aloofness was far more attractive to her. After all, he was that one and only, chef. Mag and Xi walked out of the studio and he asked with a chuckle, "How was my performance?" "Astonishing," Xi said honestly. She looked at Mag with a judging gaze. She still couldn't understand how Mag could adapt so well when this was the first time he had taken part in a variety show. It was even his first interaction with the underground world. He even stirred up the underground city's internet world all by himself. "How's the process of Horace's incident?" Mag asked telepathically. "You know. Such matters usually don't progress too fast." Mag nodded thoughtfully. Even though Horace's incident had created a hurricane on the internet, the result would be decided by all the parties playing the game. It would have nothing to do with justice. "Nancy is asking me out for tea." "I intend to go out for a while," Mag said. "Are you going to kill Fergus?" Xi's footsteps faltered. "I have no intention to challenge your underground city's extraordinaires yet." Mag shook his head calmly. "I just want to go out for a walk and buy some local goodies for my wife and daughters." Xi caught up with Mag and said in a grave voice, "I need to remind you again. According to our agreement, you cannot bring anything from Underground City back to the Norland continent." "Don't worry. I won't carry your robots back. I just want to bring some beautiful handicrafts back to them." Mag consoled Xi. "How dare he reject me again?" Akali, who was slumping on the sofa, saw Mag's succinct reply and got angry. In Underground City, no man had rejected her repeatedly like him. Furthermore, he didn't even bother to give her a reason. "Miss, the explosive white water beef balls you asked for." The secretary rushed in with an insulated box excitedly. "Let me try them before I decide if I should forgive him." Akali sat up. The secretary opened the insulated box and the heat gushed out together with the rich beef aroma. Even though she was lying on the sofa and snacking as she watched the show, Akali couldn't help gulping when she smelled the aroma. There were 5 round and cute beef balls in the crystal bowl. Akali used a spoon to scoop up a beef ball. She blew at it gently before popping it into her mouth and biting it. Howl! Akali couldn't help but open her mouth after she was scalded by the hot soup. The soup that squirted out splashed over the secretary's face. The secretary took 2 steps back and almost sat on the floor. Akali was dumbfounded too. Fortunately, she was at home. If this happened outside, she would be utterly embarrassed. Then, a sweet taste blossomed on the tip of her tongue. The taste buds that were shocked by the hot soup, were suddenly consoled gently. The fresh prawns with the slightly gooey meat jelly soup, brought the extreme umami from the sea. Along with the beef's rich aroma, it made her lost within it immediately. She seemed to be swimming in the blue sea for one moment and then running on the grassland the next. It was so carefree. After the soup, it was the bouncy beef ball. The beautiful texture after she bit down, made it hard for her to imagine that this was the beef that was beaten tens of thousands of times. And, the beef's rich aroma instantly blossomed in her mouth. She had never eaten such a strange food before. It caught her unawares and yet made her lost within it. The secretary wiped away the soup on her face and said to Akali with a panicked expression, "Miss, I'll take it away right now." Her heart almost shattered. Who could have imagined that the explosive white water beef balls that had won over all the judges, actually made Miss vomit? She was going to die today. "Who wants you to take them away?" Akali glared at the secretary and picked up another beef ball with her spoon again. "You go and change first. Come back to clear up after I am done." All right." The secretary left with a dazed expression. It seemed like Miss quite liked it. She ate the beef balls one by one. The more she ate it, the more she enjoyed it. After swallowing the last beef ball, Akali picked up the crystal bowl and finished the soup before she licked her lips with satisfaction and smiled. With the utmost humility, this helping of explosive white water beef balls had far exceeded her expectations. No wonder Nancy treated him specially. She didn't get to taste the charcoal grilled mutton ribs yesterday, but today's beef balls really let her get a feel of Hades' potential. This outstanding man was handsome, righteous, and a great cook. If Nancy got him into her harem, she would never get to eat the dishes he cooked ever again. No way. That is definitely not going to happen. Such an outstanding man should be firmly in my grasp. Akali clenched her teeth with an exceptionally convicted expression. Submit Hades' information and get them to complete the background check as soon as possible. After tomorrow's competition is over, I'm bringing him back to the manor. In the office, Nancy ordered the secretary next to her. All right. The secretary nodded and quickly left the office. Charcoal grilled mutton ribs, explosive white water beef balls. I want to see what other surprises you can bring me, Nancy mumbled to herself with a smile. Hades' performance today made her increasingly sure that she wanted him to enter the McCarthy Manor. However, a big family had many rules and the checks done on the chefs were particularly stringent. Even if she vouched for him, he still had to pass her family's checks. Annie sat next to her with an easel in front of her. Even though she was facing the bustling and crowded Aden Square, there was only one person in her drawing. It was Meg, who was busy in the kitchen. The dish in the wok was eggplant with garlic sauce, and there was a helping of red braised pork at the side. Amy turned to look at the drawing. She gulped and lamented. So hungry. Big sister. Eat candy. Little kiddo jumped out of the restaurant on Ugly Duckling's back and squeezed in between the two of them. She opened her hand and there were 2 rainbow candies in her palm. Kiddo is so good. Amy removed the candy wrapper and tossed the candy into her mouth. There was a satisfied smile on her face. So sweet. Annie also picked up the rainbow candy from Kiddo's palm with a smile. She removed the candy wrapper and tried to feed it to Kiddo. You eat it, big sister Annie. I still have plenty. Kiddo shook her head and grabbed a bunch of rainbow candies out from inside her pocket. Annie was slightly taken aback before she popped the candy into her mouth smilingly. Meow meow. Ugly Duckling, who was demoted from the restaurant's pet to a steed, lifted its head up and called out fawningly. All right. I'll give you one too. Kiddo grabbed one rainbow candy and was about to remove the wrapper for Ugly Duckling. Ugly Duckling swung its tail. It was so happy that its eyes were narrowed. Ugly Duckling, you're not allowed to eat candy. Amy's stern voice sounded from next to him. Kiddo's actions halted instantly and Ugly Duckling looked crushed as it looked at Amy aggrievedly. Look at you. You are getting rounder and rounder. You are going to turn into a ball soon, but what about your wings? Your slender neck? Your paws that could swim? Amy looked at Ugly Duckling as though she had expected better from it. When are you going to turn into a swan if you continue on like this? Meow. Ugly Duckling bent its ears defeatedly and shifted itself towards Annie. Annie rubbed its head smilingly before squishing its chubby face. Then, she gestured to Kiddo, asking her to put away the candy. Ugly Duckling was indeed too fat. Especially when it had eaten plenty of snacks as it followed Kiddo around. Although a fat and round big orange cat was great to cuddle and very adorable, it indeed couldn't continue to eat candies anymore. It will get fat when it eats. What a poor thing. Kiddo tossed the candy into her mouth with pity all over her face. Meow meow. Ugly Duckling crouched down on the ground, utterly depressed. Kiddo mumbled intelligibly with the candy in her mouth as she pointed at Ugly Duckling's back. However, Ugly Duckling's wings are going to grow soon. See, its little wings have become big wings. That is simply the little wings getting stuffed into fat wings. Amy pursed her lips. Let me see. When will they become real wings? Kiddo touched the little wings on Ugly Duckling's back with her tiny hands. Dots of golden light beams emerged from her fingers and entered the wing's tattoo, as though a golden rim was added. Ugly Duckling, who was crouching on the ground, suddenly looked up and a beam of golden light flashed across its blue eyes. It tilted its head back and let out a roar. Meow! A pair of golden wings stretched out from Ugly Duckling's back and its dazzling beams of light were even more glaring than the sun's beams. Moreover, the wings that appeared this time were no longer cute little fleshy wings. They were a pair of big wings with a wingspan that was over 1 meter. Meow meow. Ugly Duckling turned around to look at its own wings in a daze. It was slightly taken aback. Wow! They're really big wings. Amy lit up her eyes. She even touched the wings. Just like chicken wings. Annie's eyes were also sparkling. Kiddo grabbed Ugly Duckling's ears and hurried it. Ugly Duckling, take me up into the sky. I want to fly, fly. Fly high, high. Even though Ugly Duckling was in a daze, it didn't dare to disobey Kiddo's orders. It flapped its wings gently and they disappeared with a swoosh. They reappeared in the sky, around 100 meters high in the center of Aiden Square. So fast! Amy said with shock. Meanwhile, Annie changed to a new piece of drawing paper. A golden wing appeared on the paper. So, where did Boss Mag get this little one from? On the second floor of the magic potion shop, Krasud took a sip of his wine and looked at Kiddo, who was zooming around in the sky on a flying fat cat, with a complex expression. After a moment of silence, Urian said, I heard that the elven race can mutate. Irina has brought a little elf with her. That's a little elf, but that little one isn't a little elf. Krasud shook his head, but he seemed to have thought of something soon. He looked at Urian with a complicated expression. Do you think she is also? How many people in this world do you think can do what she did earlier? Urian lowered his voice even more. Krasud smiled. How many people can there be, when even you and I can't do it? Then, both of them fell into silence again. I don't think I have said anything about disciples before, right? Krasud broke the silence after a long time. How dare you think about such matters? Aren't you not afraid of leading her astray? Urian pursed his lips with a sarcastic look. Krasud smiled sheepishly. It was rare that he didn't make a rebuttal. Kiddo zoomed around above the Aiden Square on Ugly Duckling's back. The golden wings were so glaring that they attracted plenty of gazes. What is that? A flying cat. It should be some kind of magic beast. It's so chubby. So adorable. This cat looks very familiar. It looks like Mamie Restaurant's little boss cat, but why did it grow a pair of wings? There is also a cute little one on the cat's back. Isn't that Mamie Restaurant's tiny boss? It looks so dangerous. People were looking up at them with amazement and worry at the same time. The Grey Temple's patrol team had already discovered the chaos over here from afar. Chaos City had a no-fly rule. However, when they saw that it was a fat cat flying with a little toddler girl on its back and heard that they were from Mamie Restaurant, their expressions softened. Gina heard the news and walked out of the ice cream shop. She looked at Kiddo zooming around in the sky with an exasperated smile, but she still put up a stern expression and gravely said, Get down, Kiddo. Don't fool around. Go down, Ugly Duckling. Let's go eat ice cream. Kiddo heard Gina and patted on Ugly Duckling's head. Ugly Duckling, who was already used to flying, immediately changed its direction and dashed towards the ice cream shop's door. Then, it crashed onto the ground and rolled around a few times. It only stopped when it crashed into Gina's legs. Meanwhile, Kiddo leaped off from Ugly Duckling before it touched down and jumped right into Gina's arms. Kiddo swung Gina's arm and asked in a cute voice, Mother, Mother, look. Ugly Duckling can fly now. When can we eat roast swans? A swan is so cute. How can you roast it? Gina swiped Kiddo's nose with a smile before looking at Ugly Duckling, who was crouching on the ground. It had put away its wings. The golden wings had disappeared and they had become a mark on its back. Compared to their original dull color, they looked like they had a golden rim drawn around them. They looked rather smart. Gina reminded Kiddo with a stern look. You're not allowed to fly around on Ugly Duckling in the future, especially during the day. Otherwise, you will be arrested. Oh. Kiddo nodded obediently, but she didn't forget to make a funny face at Ugly Duckling. Ferris walked into Irina's office and said with relief, Your Highness, the little mistress has already fallen asleep after drinking the fruit juice. Irina said to Ferris, who had visibly gotten thinner and gained 2 dark eye circles, Thank you for your hard work. For the past few days, she finally understood Meg's difficulty in raising Amy alone because she saw Ferris hard work with her own eyes. The tiny baby wouldn't work with you at all. It's all right. I am fine. Ferris smiled, but she couldn't hide her tiredness. Drink this water and then have a good sleep. Leave the child to Ashley today. Irina picked up a glass of water and dripped a drop of the spring of life into it. The rich life aura instantly filled the entire office. Just smelling it made one feel reinvigorated. Ferris took the glass of water and drank the entire glass in a gulp before saying to Irina with a serious expression, Your Highness, I just need to have a good sleep in the future. I don't need such a precious thing like the spring of life. This was the spring of life that could save lives, and now that the tree of life was gone, the spring of life that the princess had would only decrease whenever she used it. Ferris felt bad when the spring of life was wasted on her. Irina flicked her finger against Ferris' forehead and said, Silly. You have already reached your bottleneck phase. Go back and sleep first. Have a good charge after you wake up and see if you can break through the 7th tier threshold. Oh. Ferris covered her forehead and left. She couldn't understand how she reached her bottleneck phase when she was only caring for the baby. The office's door closed and Irina sat at the desk in a daze as she murmured to herself, I wonder if things are smooth for him over there. It's imprudent for him to go over there alone. Moreover, that thing seems to have reappeared again. I have to go to Abyss Island to take a look personally. Mag and Nancy had afternoon tea together. The process was relaxed, just like 2 friends getting together. Nancy was rather interested in his experiences, so Mag cooked up a cut and dried story of a striving young man who continued to innovate. However, she seemed to be very satisfied with that story. When the afternoon tea was over, her favorability for him rose up another 2 points. System, do you think she will fall in love with me if this goes on? Mag came out from the cafe at the top with a weird expression. From the analysis of the current conditions, this possibility is extremely low, the system answered. Mag pursed his lips. He didn't refute that. He also could sense that Nancy's feelings for him were more of a kind of admiration. The kind of admiration that a person in power had for a craftsman. It had a hint of superiority within it. Of course, he was rather satisfied with this situation. In this case, she wouldn't go looking for him crazily when he went missing in the future. After he returned to the dormitory, Mag put on a disguise and then left the building. There are many choices for a disguise, for example, being a staff member. Why do you choose to be a woman? Xi sat in the passenger seat with befuddlement on her cold face. Perhaps, this is the so-called once you are a drag queen, you will always be a drag queen. Mag was speechless. Mag took off the dress and tried to push the blame away, why didn't you say so earlier? Xi looked away and rolled her eyes. Moreover, even if he didn't put on a disguise, with his power, it would be a very simple thing for him to leave the building without anybody finding out. He changed back to male clothes and changed to another face. The flying car stopped at the door of the biggest shopping center in Tucker City. Tucker City Shopping Center was the biggest, most well-equipped shopping center in Underground City. It was also deemed as the trading hub of the entire Underground City. From daily essential items to cannons and battleships, they all could be traded here. What do you need to buy? Xi asked. I'll walk around first. I don't know what to buy either. It's good to find out more while looking. Mag walked towards the building that traded machinery. Xi frowned but chose to follow him. Once he entered through the doorway, Mag's attention was attracted by the gigantic battleship that was parked at the center of the hall. Xi introduced it to Mag, the very first battleship. The military has already decommissioned it 200 years ago. It's now being transformed for civilian use. How much does one of those cost? Mag asked. To you, it's not for sale. Can I buy it as a toy for my daughter? No. Mag's gaze retracted from the battleship unwillingly. Although it was a battleship that was decommissioned by the military, it was still an advanced battleship that the system couldn't make. The first floor was all selling firearms. Mag strolled around to take a look. Other than the few guns that were only supplied to the military, all the firearms could be found here. Mag couldn't help asking, "You are selling guns like vegetables. Are you not worried about daily gunfights? You need documents to buy firearms and every gun is registered. All the information related to gun-related crimes can be found immediately," Xi answered calmly. Mag nodded thoughtfully. That sounded reasonable. One afternoon of looking around without buying anything had completely suppressed Mag's purchasing power. Other than the firearms center, Mag went to a few daily essential items centers. Compared to the guns that only the big guys in firearms could play with, the distributors and operators of those daily items could better represent the underground city's normal folks. After going around, Mag felt a sense of familiarity the most. The underground world felt very similar to Earth in many ways. They had already gotten rid of the feudal oppression and the normal folks had more rights. Even though the big families still had a lot of power, they could only hide behind the scenes. They didn't have much influence over the normal folks. Their lives were much happier than the normal folks on the Norland continent. On their way back in the car, Mag stared at the buildings that zoomed by them quietly. Xi looked at him, puzzled. Mag suddenly turned around to ask Xi, "Tell me, when can the Norland continent's ordinary folks have a life like theirs?" Xi looked at Mag's clear eyes and shook her head eventually. She didn't say and she couldn't say. However, his idea was already very dangerous. Mag smiled and recast his gaze outside. That day will come. That night, many people lost sleep due to the knocking sounds above them, and many chopping blocks were sacrificed heroically. Many arms couldn't be raised the next day. As the ingredients prices were still reasonable, many housewives wanted to try making it themselves. There were big shots who captured Mag's hammering actions and wrote a code on it. They made a beef hammering robot and received hundreds of thousands of orders for it. There were also restaurant bosses who made their chefs learn the dish overnight, trying to add one more signature dish to their menu the next day. This was a party for the chowhounds and it also brought a new secret of wealth to some people. Mag wasn't concerned about that at all. He only cared about the rapidly increasing number of his fans. It went over 1 million yesterday and it had successfully broken through to 3 million today. Moreover, it was still increasing at a terrifying pace. Good. What's the use of practicing? Isn't it better to be a star and be a god through popularity? Mag controlled the fridge with his mind power. He poured himself a glass of orange juice that was chilled. Mag asked in his mind as he drank the orange juice, "System, have you calculated the best plan yet? How to ensure that underground city will not launch a war against the Norland continent? This system has built millions of data models based on our current intel and have reached a conclusion. However, the conclusion is a little weird. Stop beating around the bush. Spit it out." Mag was interested. He put down his cup. According to this system's professional model calculations, maintaining the underground city's current political structure is the most stable plan for the Norland continent. Mag frowned, but he soon revealed a thoughtful expression. For the past tens of thousands of years, the underground city's political structure has been relatively stable. Although the political structure has changed and evolved with the advancement of technology and society, overall speaking, underground cities' main power is still controlled by a few big families. And during the past tens of thousands of years, underground city has never launched a big-scale war or invasion on the Norland continent before. If this balance is broken, then the possibility of these two worlds colliding will shoot up, the system said. Hence, the underground cities' people may need a revolution, and certain social classes may need a revolution, but the Norland continent doesn't want them to have a revolution. Mag furrowed his brows tightly. Given the great difference in the underground city's power and the Norland continent's power, once underground city launched a war on the Norland continent, it would be an outright massacre. And the person who was actively trying to push for a revolution now was the military's Marshal Ferdinand. And he should be considered as working for Ferdinand right now. It's getting a little troublesome right now. Mag scrolled through the intel on all the plutocrats that the system had gotten for him. He knew, without any doubts, that Ferdinand had done something to his bangle. Hence, other than using WeTwit, surfing, and searching for some useless information, he didn't do anything else with it. The system's learning ability was exactly as it described. It's very powerful. It had successfully hacked into the military's intel vault and gotten the very top secret intel. Judging from the current situation, in order to protect the Norland continent, he should be working with all the plutocrats and getting rid of Ferdinand, the challenger of the old system. However, although he was deemed as the most powerful powerhouse on the Norland continent, he was still just a demigod. There was still some distance from being a real god, and his difference from Ferdinand was even greater. There was more than one extraordinaire behind every plutocrat family. If he was to go to talk to them about a collaboration, it would be no different from serving himself to them on a platter. Furthermore, as a transmigrant, he still had an unexplainable liking for Ferdinand, who had a class responsibility. Power is the source of confidence. Seems like I have to see if I can gain something from the sacred steel first. Mag decided and tossed all the troubled thoughts behind him. Chief, this is Horace's statement. There is a name list too. These scums. Animals. Outside of the interrogation room, a middle-aged policeman handed an interrogation statement to the chief with ill-concealed anger. Thank you for your hard work. The chief patted him on his shoulder. He cast a glance at Horace in the hospital bed before leaving. This matter wasn't something that a bureau chief could decide. The game between the upper echelons would decide the final direction of this matter. As for this name list, it was simply nothing. The military had already taken a clear stand to investigate this matter, and the president had also given a clear instruction. The Dixon family was very powerful, and the few plutocrats that were on good terms with them had begun to expose a few of their own celebrities on WeTwit to reduce and divert the attention of Horace's matter. Of course, those few celebrities weren't good people, either. However, it was still a lament of how a star would end up in prison once they were given up by the big families. If the adjudicator, whom nobody knew his identity, could judge and kill Fergus too, the problem would be much easier. After all, that man did as he wished, and he wasn't influenced by all the powers. He didn't have any care when he stirred up the matters. Big sister, soon, very soon. I will be able to take revenge for you soon. I want that fellow to pay for his crime with his life. In a dark room, a maiden was crouching in a corner and biting her lower lip. Blood dripped down from the corner of her lips. WeTwit for the past 2 days had been exceptionally busy. As Horace fell off the altar from the godfather of movies to a rapist, a domino effect happened in the entertainment industry. 8 A-listers were exposed for all sorts of crimes. The celebrities who used to be glamorous became cruel murderers and rapists. They shattered all the audience's value systems with shock. More and more victims began to speak up and testified against those animals' dirty deeds. The continuous exposure was getting weirder and weirder. It also diverted a lot of attention from the Horace incident, and slowly, Fergus was rarely mentioned. They had disappeared from the trending list. Mag woke up in the morning and scanned through the WeTwit's trending list first. All those that were exposed were collateral damage. No matter how glamorous a star was, they were simply chess pieces in the plutocrat's hands. This moment was a true portrayal of life. Then, let me make the issue even bigger. Mag searched the keywords about Fergus and found an article written by a person who said she was the younger sister of the Fergus incident's victim. After reading that article, he shared it on WeTwit with these words: "Some people shouldn't be forgotten. Some criminals shouldn't be, either." Chapter 2471. That fellow posted a WeTwit again. After that WeTwit was posted, it immediately caused a storm on the internet. Brother Righteous YYDS. That's the reason I fell in love with that man. Justice hasn't arrived for a long time. Isn't that considered as absent? Is he going against the Dixon family head-on? Degree. In a few short minutes, the comments in the comment section had already numbered over 10,000. The Horus incident caused an earthquake in the entertainment industry. Over 12 A-listers' scandals were exposed and all the common folks had a field day consuming the gossip. As the descendant of the influential Dixon family, Fergus was exposed by Horus in the live stream for torturing and murdering an underage girl. He was under a lot of attention previously. However, as all the weird incidents in the entertainment industry were exposed, the people's attention was successfully diverted from Fergus incident. As the attention slowly faded away, posts related to it could rarely be seen again. Then, at the eve of the immensely popular Top Chef competition, Hades, the contestant that everyone focused on, shared a WeTwit related to the Fergus incident. Soon, the WeTwit number Fergus murder incident number was pushed to the top of the trending list. The Horus incident was exposed by Hades, and he was called Brother Righteous because of that. However, after that WeTwit, Hades didn't share anything else on WeTwit again. Many people thought that he was oppressed and no longer dared to get involved in such matters again. Nobody could have imagined that, after 2 days of silence and 2 hours before the final, he opened fire at Fergus directly. "Boss, that chap Hades posted a WeTwit again." Lucien, who wasn't fully awake, picked up Amos' call and heard his exasperated and angry voice. "What did he send?" Lucien heard that name and jumped upright on his bed immediately. "It's Fergus this time." Amos' voice sounded bitter. "This chap." Lucien had already seen Hades' latest WeTwit. Reading his words, he felt amused and angry at the same time. The A-listers in the entertainment industry had exposed themselves in a suicidal manner and finally suppressed the Fergus incident with a lot of effort. Hades' WeTwit had sent the Fergus incident back to the number 1 spot on the WeTwit's trending list again. The Dixon family's hard work was for nothing. He wondered what expression the head of the Dixons would have when he woke up and saw that news. It was a power play among all the forces. The president and the military had already made their position known, so the pressure on WeTwit was lessened. As long as WeTwit appeared to be impartial on the surface, there was nothing else he needed to be concerned about. However, Fergus' situation would only be decided after all the parties finished fighting behind the scenes, but now the situation was different after Hades stirred things up again. "What do we need to do now?" Amos asked. Lucien stared at the screen quietly for a moment before shaking his head. "We won't be doing anything. That account is protected by the military. Are you able to ban it?" The Top Chef competition's final was about to start and Hades chose this sensitive time to post this WeTwit. They wondered if he was instructed to do so by the McCarthy family. Sit this one out and reap the spoils later was obviously the best plan. "All right. I'll go and handle those 2 board directors first," Amos said with exhaustion. "I appreciate your help. After this is over, I'll give you a holiday. Bring your family and children out and play for a few days," Lucien said and then hung up. Sitting on the edge of the bed, Lucien stared at Hades' account quietly for a long time. Seems like Nancy has already extended an olive branch to him. Lucien shook his head. "But, Can the McCarthy family protect him forever? The Dixon family isn't a pushover. Young people tend to get carried away easily. Director Johnny looked at the top 3 on the WeTwits trending list after he was woken up by his assistant. He smiled bitterly. This child is still attracting attention for the show at this time. The rating is so high that even I am getting fearful. The biggest beneficiary of the Horus incident was obviously the Top Chef competition. The waning variety show was given a second lease of life and the semi-final even broke the ratings record. Hades was the greatest contributor. No one could compare to him. Now that the show was already very popular, today's finale might create a new rating record again. Right at this crucial moment, Hades actually went to post about Fergus. He even hinted to Hades 2 days ago that he needed to be careful of his actions online during the show's recording period. Good fellow. It seemed like he didn't take it to heart at all. Although he had the McCarthy family behind him and the McCarthy family had never gotten along well with the Dixon family, the Dixon family was still one of the top 10 plutocrats and not a weakling. Everyone was afraid that the Dixon family would take revenge if they were pushed too hard. Please go out first. I need to make a call. Johnny got up and washed his face before he dialed Nancy's number. I already know about it. You don't have to care about it. Just focus on today's final. Nancy's cold voice came from the other side of the phone. Yes, Johnny said obediently. Good fellow. It seemed like Miss Nancy had long known about this matter. Furthermore, it was very likely that it was her who told Hades to do it. He knew that Hades had been having his meals and drinking afternoon teas with Nancy for the past 2 days. Even he, the director, didn't have that privilege. The Dixon Manor. Smash! The intricate crystal bowl shattered into countless pieces on the marble floor. The Dixon family's head, Merlin, had a thunderous expression as he looked at the WeTwit interface coldly. Next to him was a pale-looking middle-aged man, whose legs were trembling. With an equally trembling voice, he said, H-head, Fergus is still a child. Merlin cast a cold glance at him before saying, Shut up. You useless thing. You have raised such a good-for-nothing. You've shamed our family. Plop. The man's knees went weak and he knelt on the shattered crystal. Merlin retracted his disgusted gaze from the man. He tilted his head slightly before saying, This chap. I want him dead within 3 days. In the shadow behind him, the space distorted a bit and a low reply came from within it, Sure. Perhaps, many people have forgotten how our Dixon family began our rise. Merlin smirked coldly. He. Angelina, who had just washed up, saw Hades' WeTwit and she began to look excited and worried at the same time. The Horus incident might be a coincidence, but Hades' WeTwit this morning was equivalent to an open declaration of war with the Dixon family. Offending a scary plutocrat for a stranger. Was it worth it? Chapter 2472 Don't save money for them. Such a rare thing actually happened to him. He gained so many fans just by cooking. With his character and persona, he increased the fans' favorability and loyalty. He did everything according to his likes. He would go head on whenever he saw the things that he didn't like. Who cares if they were plutocrats or not? He would just run if they started to fight. So what if they were plutocrats? Ferdinand would definitely help him escape if they were to fight. Mag's current objective now was to finish his first mission as soon as possible and go to read the steel. He had to ascertain if that sacred steel, which was rumored to be so awesome, was effective on him. As for rescuing those underground cities folks who were suffering, and giving them exciting stories to surf online for, he would leave all that to the other underground cities' heroes. As the representative from the Norland continent, he had to set his objective straight first. Get up, wash up, eat breakfast and then go to the dressing room to do his makeup and get ready for the final. Mag didn't interact with any staff members the whole time. He didn't want to cause them trouble in the future. He thought Johnny would come and chat with him, but he didn't see him even after he finished his makeup and was about to go on stage. This made Mag like Nancy even more. This maiden's values are as great as her looks. The Top Chef competition's final, on top of the Horus incident. This level of attention made Hades' post's popularity remain at the very top. Its popularity couldn't be suppressed even when two A-listers' scandals were exposed in the early morning. On the other hand, the Top Chef competition's final had entered into the 3 minutes countdown. Mag entered the familiar arena under the staff members' guidance. There were only 2 workbenches left on the stage today. The judges had already taken their seats and everyone's gaze was glued on Mag as soon as he entered the stage. Their gazes were rather complex. However, Nancy smiled and nodded at him. Mag also returned a smile to her before he quickly stepped onto the stage and walked to his workbench. The result of today's competition was no longer important to him. He would enter the McCarthy family with Nancy after the competition. However, out of respect to his opponent and the audience, he would still make a dish that wowed everyone. Then, Angelina came out from the contestants' walkway. She was wearing a white chef's suit and her makeup was much thicker today. However, her makeup couldn't conceal the tiredness on her face, especially her eyes. They were bloodshot, as though she didn't rest well. "What's with Angelina's condition?" Johnny got up and asked as he looked at Angelina. It was horrible for her to appear on the stage like this. "I guess I was too excited over today's final, so I didn't sleep well last night," Angelina said apologetically. Johnny got to work and gave out instructions quickly. "Get a bottle of Vitality water to perk yourself up first. Makeup artist, get her a pair of contact lenses. Her eyes have to look energetic." After the staff members got busy, Angelina was refreshed. At least, it looked like she was on the surface. Angelina got onto the stage and stood at the workbench next to Mag's. She smiled at him. Mag nodded slightly. This girl didn't look like someone who would lose sleep over getting into the final. Why did she end up looking like this? Then, he noticed Angelina's favorability for him, 96. Darn it! Was she lovesick? Mag was shocked. This favorability was too much. It was hard to reach such a favorability even when a couple was deeply in love. However, he didn't do anything. He even gave her the cold treatment. Why did her favorability for him increase again overnight? Perhaps, she was a masochist? Mag felt a headache. He didn't want a maiden to fall too deeply in love with this fake body. "All right. Everyone gets ready. The live stream will start in 10. Johnny's voice spoke up and all the judges and contestants readied themselves immediately. Right then, 1 billion people had surged into the Top Chef competition's live studio. Hades' retweet in the morning had attracted even more attention for the Top Chef competition. Hades YYDS 1.YYDS, Yang Yuan De Shen, YYDS, means eternal God and describes an outstanding person or thing. It's similar to the saying GOAT, greatest of all time, in English. The phrase is often used by fans to praise their idols or simply to describe something they are fond of. He sent the retweet, but why am I more afraid than him? Brothers, type protection on the bullet chat. If something happens to him, it must be done by the Dixon family. I want to know what surprises Hades will bring us today. The bullet chat refreshed crazily. The countdown ended and the live stream started. As usual, the MC made an introduction about the judges and contestants first. Hades, who could do anything, and Angelina, who had blue sky thinking. This duel was filled with uncertainties and was very exciting. Meanwhile, the finals rules had changed again. There was no restriction on the ingredients that the contestants could choose, which meant the contestant could choose any ingredients that they could find in underground city. That included ingredients that cost over tens of millions of copper coins. With the Top Chef competition's rich nature, they must be very confident to do this in the final. Hence, the audience was already looking forward to those legendary ingredients and wondering if they would appear on the stage after the MC announced the rules. Unrestricted ingredients. It's indeed the Top Chef competition. I hope to see the frozen golden lobster. It's a tip-top ingredient from tens of millions of years ago. There are only 12 in the entire underground city. Its auction price is over 1,000,000,000,000. I want to see the deep ocean crescent fish. The last time someone saw it was 500 years ago, right? The audience was in a heated discussion, while Mag and Angelina began to write down the ingredients that they needed on the tablet. The ingredients that Angelina chose were normal. Their prices were reasonable. The most expensive ingredient was a helping of deep-sea ice blue coral that cost 3,200,000. However, it was far from the top ingredients that the audience was expecting, so it was rather disappointing to them. However, this was Angelina's style. She combined a bunch of weird ingredients and turned them into an imaginative dish, impressing everyone. Mag looked at the tablet in deep thoughts. The audience didn't have any high expectations on Mag's ingredients. After all, he had chosen very normal ingredients for the past 2 competitions. Turning the normal into the rare and ethereal. That was the very important reason that Mag was so loved by the audience. Mag was indeed thinking, but he was also communicating with the system. System, have you found a high-end replacement for the pig's kidney? The more expensive it is, the better. Don't save money for them. It's unrestricted ingredients. We haven't played such a rich game before, Mag said inwardly. The system quickly provided the answer. At the north of Underground City, in the Cave of the Heart of Darkness, there is a magic beast that resembles a dragon Medusa. Her kidney tastes great, and its texture fits the host's requirement to replace the pig's kidney perfectly. Price? What's its price? Medusa will have a 10th tier power after it's fully grown. It's great in illusionary skills and is extremely poisonous. It hides in the complicated caverns of the Heart of Darkness. It's very hard to kill, let alone capture it. The price of the only live Medusa in Tucker City now is 300 million and it's in the hands of the McCarthy family. That's it. Mag curled his lips and wrote down a line on the tablet. It wasn't rare that a 10th tier magic beast was used as an ingredient in this elite circle. However, Medusa was simply too precious and extremely rare. Only 2 or 3 of the judges had tried it before. Contestant Hades' ingredient choice today is shocking. Medusa is an extremely precious ingredient. I have tasted it once. Its scrumptious taste is memorable and its price is equally memorable. David smilingly said, I just wonder what dish contestant Hades is going to make with a snake's kidney. Wow! It's a completely unexpected choice. Medusa is an extremely precious ingredient. A Medusa was auctioned 3 months ago. Its price was 300,000,000,000. OMG! I've made it now. I can actually see a meal that costs 300,000,000,000. Accurately speaking, it's just a helping of Medusa's kidney. It doesn't cost 300 million. However, with the premise of freshness, they indeed have to kill a Medusa that costs 300 million to get the kidney. If I remember correctly, the Medusa was bought by the McCarthy family 3 months ago. The audience's enthusiasm was fired up. An ingredient of this level wasn't something that ordinary folks could get in touch with. They could only see it in such competitions. Johnny was stunned. Miss Nancy decided the competition's rules today. Given the McCarthy family's power and the Top Chef competition's current influence, as long as the ingredient was in Underground City, there should be no problem getting it to the arena within 10 minutes. However, Mag was asking for a live Medusa's kidney. His assistant had just researched the rareness of this thing for him. This magic beast was vicious and violent. Adult Medusas that were brought back to Tucker City Live were rare. He wasn't confident that he could get this thing into the studio within 10 minutes. However, since the programming division had said it, if they couldn't produce the ingredient that was written in front of billions of a live streaming audience, it would be very embarrassing. Miss Nancy, we have checked. There's only one live Medusa that was brought back to Tucker City Live in the past year, and it was bought by Miss Norma of your family. Do you think? Johnny said to Nancy telepathically in panic with carefully chosen words. Norma. Nancy frowned. After a few seconds of silence, she said, leave this to me. The snake's kidney will be delivered to the studio within 10 minutes. I appreciate your help, Johnny quickly said, and then got the producer to cut away Nancy's scene. Nancy had already left the stage. She should be going to get the snake's kidney. Miss Norma and Miss Nancy were half-sisters with the same father. They were both direct descendants of the McCarthy family with a noble status. However, according to rumors, these two didn't have a harmonious relationship. Johnny was also worried. He didn't know if Miss Nancy could get the snake's kidney from Norma successfully. If she failed, he still had to come up with a solution. He was feeling very regretful now. He actually failed to do a simple communication with the contestants beforehand. He could have at least set a perimeter for the contestants behind the scene. He was being too careless. As an experienced variety shows director, he committed such a juvenile mistake because he was being overconfident. Mag continued to write down a few more side ingredients and spices. Compared to Medusa's kidney, the other ingredients looked very normal. He didn't make things hard for the programming division at all. Mag felt like choosing the dragon's kidney when he chose the Medusa snake's kidney. Compared to the Norland continent's giant dragons that had wings, in Mag's heart, the Medusa, which resembled a snake, matched the dragon's image in his heart more. Anyway, it was the programming division that made the boast. He didn't care if they could get it or not. After the ingredients selection was over, the MC received Johnny's request to delay, so he continued to say, all right, now that the contestants have chosen their ingredients, we need to wait approximately 10 minutes as some of the ingredients are too precious and we have to go and get it from somewhere else. The countdown for the competition will only start after the ingredients are delivered. Seems like the programming division is being too careless. They actually want hundreds of millions of people to wait for 10 minutes. What a joke. I guess the director didn't expect Hades to choose the Medusa snake's kidney, right? This year's Top Chef competition is destined to be a classic. The audience wasn't angry because they needed to wait. Instead, they were feeling a hint of schadenfreude. This was a program's live stream. Hundreds of millions of people were waiting. Of course, they couldn't just wait with nothing to do. Hence, all the judges began to make the atmosphere lively, so the waiting time wouldn't be so boring. 3 minutes later, Nancy returned to the judges' table and nodded to Johnny. Johnny heaved a breath of relief. Only then could he relax. However, Miss Nancy should have paid a high price for it. This would most likely be counted on Hades. Mag stood there quietly and calmly, watching for the judges putting up a show. Then, he sensed a gaze that was staring at him with his peripheral vision. It was subtle, yet intense. Is this lass really mesmerized by my beauty and unable to get herself out of it? Mag raised his eyebrows slightly. A shallow woman would only see his beautiful skin and not his interesting soul. Around 10 minutes later, the ingredients were sent to the workbenches one by one. All the ingredients that cost over 100,000 had their own close-up shot to let the audience see the precious ingredients clearly. The last to appear was the Medusa snake's kidney. This snake's kidney was sparkling like a ruby. There was a faint exotic fragrance as soon as it was presented. There was still some golden blood inside the snake's kidney that seemed to be still flowing. It looked like it was presented as soon as it was slaughtered. It's indeed a top-tier ingredient. It's already so fragrant before it's cooked. It's so enticing. David praised. I only got to eat a frozen piece of the snake meat previously. It indeed couldn't compare to a freshly killed one. The snake's kidney can be considered as one of the best parts of the Medusa snake. It is usually cooked with the pan frying or steaming methods. I wonder which method contestant Hades will choose and what kind of snake's kidney dish he will present. Old Hunter said with great anticipation. The ingredients are already presented and the competition officially starts now. The countdown is 2 hours. Contestants, please start now. The MC announced the start of the competition. Mag studied the snake's kidney in front of him closely. It was indeed a top-tier ingredient. Although the kidney was taken just after it was slaughtered, it didn't have any bloody smell. Instead, it had a faint fragrance that made one want to take a bite out of it, even though it was raw. The snake's kidney was as big as an adult's palm. It was equivalent to 6 or 7 pigs' kidneys. It was enough to make a helping of stir-fried snake's kidney. Yes. On today's final, he intended to let the people of Underground City witness the charm of stir-frying. Chapter 2474 He's so fast. Mag intended to do it fast and furious today. This Medusa snake's kidney was fat, tender, and had a unique fragrance, so he didn't have to process it to get rid of any smell. This was also the characteristic of a top-tier ingredient. It only needed to be cooked simply and its hidden scrumptiousness could be released. How to slice the fat and tender snake's kidney was a technical skill. This snake's kidney was fatter and larger than the pig's kidney, so Mag sliced it into pieces with equal thickness first. He sliced the snake's kidney diagonally before slicing horizontally from the opposite direction. His cutting speed was slow. He looked like he was teaching the audience. Cutting the snake's kidney with superficial cuts in a pattern of squares was to marinate the snake's kidney faster and to make the final product look prettier. After slicing a few pieces slowly, Mag began to increase his speed. His cleaver sliced through the snake's kidney gently. The cuts were visible but the snake's kidney remained as one piece. He was so fast that the audience's eyes couldn't catch up. I thought he needed to do it slowly. Actually, he was trying to teach me. Have you learned it? Eyes, yes. Hands, no. One, it's fine. I can see it clearly as long as I slow the video down 10 times. The audience began to express their admiration for Mag's cutting skills. The tender snake's kidney was so obedient in his hands. The heavy-looking cleaver had displayed very delicate cutting skills. It was a pleasure to watch it. Julian nodded and said, "Contestant Hades' cutting skills are definitely the best among this year's contestants. Be it his technique in dismembering the goat 2 days ago, or his exquisite cutting skills at slicing the snake's kidney, they are all astonishing." As more and more technological products entered the kitchen and the meticulous division of labor got even finer, fewer and fewer young chefs bothered to practice their cutting skills. Although Iman was eliminated at the semi-final, Julian still very much approved of Hades after he had gotten over that. If the younger generation of chefs could all work hard like him, there would definitely be talents emerging in the culinary world. Mag was working hard and so was Angelina. She carved an ice crystal snow lotus fruit into an ice phoenix. Her exquisite carving skills were equally astonishing. However, the ingredients that Angelina chose were messy, so they still couldn't guess what dish she was going to make. After slicing the kidney and leaving it aside to marinate, Mag cut the side ingredients before heating up the wok and adding in the oil. The most important aspect of stir-frying was the control of heat. It could easily be overcooked or undercooked when one cooked with a big fire. It was a big test on the chef's skills. This snake's kidney was so precious and there was only one piece in Tucker City. There was no room for mistakes. The kidney was put into the wok after the oil was hot. It glided in the wok for 30 seconds before it was removed and extra oil was drained. Mag reheated the wok again. He added the spices and stir-fired them first before adding in the side ingredients like green and red peppers. He stir-fried them till they were no longer raw. Then, Mag added the kidney back into the wok and stir-fried it with a big fire. He tossed the wok with one hand as he stir-fried the kidney with a ladle, combining the kidney together with the red and green side ingredients. They were tossing and bouncing around in the wok. The flames crept into the wok from below and danced over the ingredients, like a special effect. Darn it! The wok caught fire. Is this a special effect? Is it a little too much to add special effects to a culinary show? It's not a special effect. It's a special way of cooking. It's full of smoke and fire. This image is amazing. Please accept my knee one. The bullet chat refreshed crazily. The audience expressed their amazement. This cooking method that manipulated fire like magic was indeed astonishing. For the common chefs, it's considered a malfunction if the wok caught fire, but contestant Hades isn't alarmed at all, as though everything is under his control. Perhaps, this is the special cooking method that he wants to display today. David said with shock. Using flames to elevate a dish is a technique that is commonly seen in the Kolasi tribe's traditional cooking. However, it is usually used in the ending process to pan-fry or grill meat. This is the first time I've seen someone use such a big fire to cook a dish and let the flames get into the wok. I wonder if it's for the show's effect or if it does have a special use, Old Hunter caressed his chin and said judgingly. From the charcoal grilled mutton ribs, to the handmade beef balls, to today's stir-fried kidney, the cooking techniques that contestant Hades possess are varied and flexible. I wonder if his performance today would be equally astonishing too. I'm really looking forward to it, a female judge said smilingly, showing her admiration for Mag. The colorful ingredients tossed around in the wok and danced in the flames. The ample heat allowed the dish's color and condition to reach its best rapidly. Mag switched off the fire and plated it in one smooth action. When the camera panned closer and focused on that fresh and gleaming stir-fried kidney among the red and green peppers, only 15 minutes had passed. It's done. Mag put down the metal ladle and took half a step back. It's actually done. Everyone was shocked. One had to know that Mag was the last to finish for the previous two dishes. He almost used up the whole 2-hour time period. And the internet began to have a popular catchphrase, those who finished first, would lose. However, they didn't expect Mag to do it so ridiculously quickly today. In order to display their tactics, or to gain longer exposure, the contestants' cooking time frame was usually above 1 hour. That's all? I'm just getting started. I feel like I have seen something, but not too much at the same time. I didn't expect Hades to be so astonishingly fast when he decided to be fast. I have only just started watching the live stream. What happened? The bullet chat refreshed rapidly. The home audience was equally shocked by Mag's operation. Isn't this simply too fast? Johnny couldn't help but jump up from his seat. This was the Top Chef competition's final, the most important battle in this season and also the battle that would give the season a perfect ending. Just the income from the commercials alone reached $2 billion. They had to hit the target after they accepted the money. If Mag had completed the competition in 15 minutes, what was he going to do for the next 1 hour plus? Although Angelina was the most popular contestant before, everyone knew that Hades was the one that the audience wanted to see. Contestant Hades is indeed shockingly fast today. David looked over at the director's seat, thinking on how to extend the program's time. Old Hunter said to Mag with appreciation, speed is never a criterion to judge a dish. Contestant Hades has shown us a special way to cook the Medusa snake's kidney earlier. The end product looks good. I'm looking forward to tasting it. I have already smelled the aroma. It looks like a dish that should be eaten with rice, Nancy said with a smile too. Although it was a little unexpected, there was also a hint of appreciation in her gaze. The staff members came over and carried that stir-fried snake's kidney to the judges' table. Chapter 2475 100 points. The plate slowly rotated in front of the judges, receiving a serious judging gaze from each judge. Be it the color, smell, or condition, they were all impeccable. Although the entire process only took 15 minutes under everybody's watch, this end product was impeccable. At least it looked so on the surface. All the judges commented on this stir-fried snake's kidney. Perhaps they were instructed by Johnny. All 10 judges said their own thoughts, making this part much more interesting. As usual, the staff members plated the stir-fried snake's kidney into small portions and presented them to the judges individually. Nancy picked up a piece of the kidney with her chopsticks. The kidney that was sliced in a crisscrossing effect, curved beautifully after it was stir-fried. It looked like a flower in full bloom, which was rather pretty. She had eaten Medusa's snake's liver before. Her chef at home cooked it with the pan-fried method. It was scrumptious beyond words. However, this was the first time she was trying the snake's kidney, and it was even stir-fried. The Medusa's fragrance wasn't a stranger to her. Other than adding a little spiciness, the snake's kidney's own taste was also highlighted. She had heard from the outstanding chefs more than once that the more precious an ingredient was, the more the cooking method had to adhere to it. This was what an excellent chef should do. After looking at it closely for a while, Nancy popped the snake's kidney into her mouth. Fresh. Tender. Plump. Her teeth tore open the plump kidney. The snake's kidney, which was sent to the table within 30 minutes after the snake was killed, had an astonishing taste. The fresh juice squirted out, and it clashed and merged with the sauce that was hidden within the cuts. They played a wonderful symphony together. The taste buds exploded silently, as though beautiful music was being played by their ears. They made one mesmerized and unable to get out of it. Different from the gradual infusion of the pan-frying, this stir-fried snake's kidney was far more heated, just like the flames that were rising from the pan. It seemed to have seeped into the kidney and made it irresistible. Rib. That was the sound of clothes ripping. Nancy's eyebrows trembled, but she didn't panic. To prevent the previous accident from happening again, she had changed into a double-layered anti-rip costume, so there would be no indecent exposure. She just didn't expect this stir-fried snake's kidney to bring her such a strong wave of emotions. This scrumptious taste was indescribable. It's a pity that Norma only has one Medusa. Otherwise, I can have another helping when I get back. Nancy curved her lips, as though she had already seen Norma's furious reaction in front of the screen. Hades has conquered my taste buds again with his ability. After grilling and boiling, he has displayed his unique understanding of the stir-frying cooking method again. The scrumptiousness of this helping of Medusa's snake's kidney is perfectly interpreted. At least, I haven't tasted a better one than it. Nancy put down her chopsticks and didn't conceal her appreciation for Mag in her gaze. After saying that, she said to the director with a smile, "Please give me a bowl of rice." Obviously, this is a dish that should be eaten with rice. "Make the arrangements now," Johnny quickly said. Miss Nancy had always been aloof on the show. Her interaction with the contestants was usually brief. On the other side, David had also popped a piece of snake's kidney into his mouth. The camera zoomed in gradually to focus on his expression. From surprised to mesmerized, the intricate change was captured accurately. Rib. Then, 2 buttons snapped off from his clothes, revealing his round beer belly. Incredible. This stir-fried snake's kidney is indeed incredible. David didn't care about his clothes as he said with amazement, "The plumpness of the snake's kidney is perfectly preserved in the intense heat of the stir-frying process. This is really incredible. Furthermore, the snake's kidney's rich fragrance is perfectly interpreted with the savory and spicy taste. Other than bestowing a beautiful look to the snake's kidney, the creative carving on the kidney also allows the condiments to seep into it evenly. With just one bite, the juice and sauce merged together and squirted out, sending you to heaven. I am going to call it the best dish of this season." David was staring at Mag with a fanatic gaze. He hadn't felt so strongly for food in ages. It was an awe and shock for delicious food. At this very moment, he seemed to find the feeling that he had when he had just entered the trade. The inexperienced him back then would walk into a restaurant and be touched by their signature dish. The judges couldn't help giving David a second look. This fence-sitter's speech today sounded rather sincere. Contestant Hades' control and understanding of the heat is indeed at a genius level. Even I, who have been a chef for hundreds of years, am willing to call him an expert. Old Hunter put down his chopsticks and lamented. This level of control can only be achieved by practicing for tens of thousands of times behind the scenes. This young man's future is foreseeably limitless. This stir-fried snake's kidney had conquered every judge on the site. Moreover, some of the chefs even had thoughts that they weren't as good as Hades. 3 completely different dishes for 3 consecutive competitions. The culinary skills and depths that Hades displayed had shocked all the judges. They wondered where the programming division got this monster. Putting him on the same stage to compete with the young chefs was equivalent to bullying the youngsters. Shocking! The judges are fawning over a contestant at the top chef competition. Darn it! I feel hungry as I watch the show. But I have just eaten. I am willing to call Hades the strongest contestant ever. A dish in 15 minutes, and it shocks everyone. He's indeed brother righteous. The audience went wild and the bullet chat was refreshing itself crazily. It's that guy. He took my snake and made it into a dish. Darn it! Darn it! In a pink room in a stand-alone villa in the McCarthy Manor, a maiden in high school uniform was sitting on her bed and watching the live stream with clenched teeth. Nancy is going to bring you back, Haha. I'll make you regret stepping foot in here. On the stage, Angelina flicked a glance at Mag. Although Mag received very high acclaim from the judges, there wasn't any hint of panic on her face. Instead, she looked rather happy. She had carved many intricate little things and she slowly created a picture of animals on the big plate. Although Mag's extraordinary performance had attracted many gazes, Angelina's amazing carving skills had also attracted the audience's attention. After the judges commented on the dish flatteringly, the scoring section commenced. As the 10 seconds countdown ended, Mag's score was presented on the giant screen. Hades' score, judges' score, 90. Online score, 10. Total score, 100.